She signed 3 contracts while she was giving birth. She never touched a pen. Simone Brooks is a black regulatory compliance attorney for casinos and hotels, 29 years old. She reads every clause twice. She catches the transfers no one else sees. Kang Min-jae runs the Kang Empire. They call him Snow Wolf. A dark dragon curls up the left side of his neck, from the ear down under the collar. Black suits. A signet ring with the family crest. 8 months pregnant, she kills a suspicious transfer live in a Kang meeting. The godfather humiliates her in front of the room. That night, her husband hides a summons from the elders and flies to Vegas. He swears he'll be back the same night. Her water breaks. A neighbor drives her to the hospital. Her calls go silent, one after another. He sees 2 missed calls and stays at the party, glass raised with the gang. The baby comes early. She comes alone. Then the Nevada Gaming Commission opens a file. 3 contracts, signed digitally with her name, moving millions into Kang shell companies. Signed at the exact hour she was in labor. Her license, her career, her freedom. She never held that pen, but someone did. And what the auditors found in that server was never meant to be found. Before starting the story, comment down below where you are watching from and what time it is there. If stories of karma, love, and hidden truths move you, leave a like, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and click join to become a member and help our channel. Simone Brooks froze the wire before the second signature landed. Her finger stayed on the tablet, flat against the glass, and the transfer that had been sliding toward approval stopped moving. $11.4 million. A vendor no one at the table had heard of before this morning. She read the routing chain twice, then a third time, and each pass made the number colder. Around the long table, the Kang capitals waited. 12 men in dark suits, a pot of green tea going cold at the center, and the low hum of the Seoul Tower's climate system behind the glass. She was the only woman. She was the only one whose stomach pressed against the table's edge, 8 months of it, and she had learned weeks ago to sit with her chair pushed back and her spine straight. "There's a problem," she said. Park Dae-sung set down his cup. He did it slowly, the way he did everything, and the small click of porcelain on wood was louder than it should have been. "The council found a problem," he said. "Not to her, to the room." "The vendor doesn't exist," Simone said. "The registration is 9 days old. The bank sits in a jurisdiction we flagged in March. If this clears, the Gaming Commission in Nevada sees it inside a quarter, and the license the family spent 4 years buying is gone." She kept her voice level. She had practiced level for years. In depositions, in hearings, across tables where men wanted her to raise her voice so they could call her emotional, she never gave it to them. "You're recommending we hold," Dae-sung said. "I'm recommending we kill it." The word sat there. Kill it. She watched 2 of the capitals glance at each other, and then at the head of the table, where Kang Min-jae had said nothing at all. He was watching her. He always watched her when she worked, and most days that steadied her. His hands rested loose on the arms of the chair. The dragon on the left of his neck showed dark above his collar, the way it always did, and she had stopped seeing it years ago, the way you stop seeing a familiar door. Now she caught his jaw shift. Once. "Counsel," Dae-sung said, and now he turned to her fully. "You've been with this family how long?" "You know how long." 3 years. He smiled without warmth. 3 years, and a great deal of that time recently spent. His eyes dropped, just slightly, to the curve of her under the table, otherwise engaged. The room went still in a particular way, not shock, permission. He had asked the room whether it was allowed, and the room had answered by saying nothing. Simone did not look down at herself. She looked at Dae-sung. "The registration is 9 days old," she said again. "That's not otherwise engaged. That's a document. You can read it, or I can read it to you." A muscle moved near his eye. She pulled the file up on the tablet and turned the screen toward the table, though none of them would cross the room to read it. That was the point. She turned it anyway, so the gesture existed, so the record showed she'd offered. "Line 4, she said. "The address is a mail drop above a laundromat." Line 9, "The signatory's name matches a man who died in 2019. I ran him this morning. He's been dead 6 years and he signed this on Tuesday." The tea steamed and thinned. One of the younger capitals, a man with a scar through his eyebrow, leaned to read, and then sat back fast, as though the screen had shown him something that could be traced to him later. The vendor, Dae-sung said, was approved by the finance office. My office. Are you telling this table that my office approved a fraud? There it was. The trap under the trap. If she said yes, she called him a criminal in front of the men he commanded. If she said no, the wire cleared. I'm telling this table, she said, that whoever gave you that file lied to you. It was a gift and they both knew it. She had handed him an exit. He could take it, blame a subordinate, let the wire die, and keep his face. She watched him decide not to want the exit. You are 8 months along, Dae-sung said, gently, as though it were a kindness, carrying the heir of this family, and I wonder, we all wonder, whether a woman in your condition should be reading fraud into ordinary business, whether the blood going to the child leaves enough for the judgment. Someone at the far end of the table laughed. A short one, cut off fast. She knew the laugh. It belonged to a capital named Ho Jin who ran the ports and had never once looked at her when she spoke. He looked at her now, and the look was the reward Dae-sung had offered the room, and Ho Jin took it. Under the table, out of sight, Simone spread her fingers wide on her thigh and pressed them into the fabric until the nails whitened, and then she released them, one at a time, the way the birthing class had taught her to release a contraction, not because she was in pain, because the technique worked on rage the same way it worked on the body. You did not fight the wave, you named it and let it pass through and out. Simone felt the heat climb her neck. She let it. Heat was fine. Heat was hers to keep as long as her hands stayed still, and her hands stayed still. Min Jae, she said. The whole table turned. She never used his name in a meeting. 3 years and she had kept the wall up in every room, council and boss, nothing else. Because the moment she leaned on him in front of them, she stopped being the lawyer and became the wife, and the wife they could dismiss. She knew this. She had built her life on knowing this. She said his name anyway. Tell them what happens to the license, she said, if this wire clears. For a long moment he said nothing. Then Kang Min-jae leaned forward, and the loose hands closed. Hold the transfer, he said. Dae-sung's chin lifted a fraction. Min-jae. Hold it. He was not loud either. That was the thing about the two of them, she thought. Neither of them ever needed to be loud, and it made the loud men in the room nervous. Council flagged it, we hold it. If the finance office is clean, we clear it Monday with nothing lost. If it isn't, she just saved the family a license worth more than this floor. He looked at Dae-sung. You taught me that, Min-jae said. Never sign what you can hold. Dae-sung inclined his head, the smallest possible bow. To anyone watching it looked like agreement. Simone watched his gloved hands. He wore them even indoors, thin black leather, and she saw the right one press flat against his thigh, and the pressure was the only thing in the room that told the truth. Of course, Dae-sung said. The child comes first, always. He smiled at her when he said it. She held the tablet a beat longer, then set it face down on the table, and the black glass caught the tower lights and gave nothing back. The meeting moved on. Contracts, a hotel opening in Busan, a dispute with a supplier that Min-jae settled in 4 sentences. Simone answered when asked and said nothing when not, and under the table, low and slow, the baby turned. She watched Dae-sung the rest of the hour. He did not look at her again, not once, and the not looking was its own kind of message. He drank his tea. He agreed with everything Min-jae proposed, quickly, warmly, a second in command performing loyalty for a room that graded loyalty. Twice he called Min-jae my boy, the way a proud father does, and both times Min-jae's shoulders eased a fraction, and both times Simone saw it and understood the machinery of it, the way the old man's approval still moved her husband like a hand on a lever. She wrote nothing down. She had learned not to write in this room. She kept it all behind her eyes. The dead man's signature, the 9 days, the gloved hand pressed flat to the thigh, and she carried it out with her the way you carry water in cupped hands, careful not to spill, all the way to the elevator. They didn't speak in the car until the tower was behind them. The driver took the long way through the district, out of habit, and the city ran wet and bright along the window. She had stopped seeing the city too. Min-jae sat with his head back against the seat and his eyes closed. and she watched the line of his throat and the dark shape climbing it, and she waited. "You used my name," he said, without opening his eyes. "I needed it to land." It landed. It shouldn't have needed to. She turned toward him as much as the seat and the belt would let her. He asked the room if it was open season, and the room said yes. "On me, in front of your capitals, and you let him get 3 sentences in before you moved." His eyes opened. "I moved." After the laugh. That reached him. She watched it reach him. He sat up, and for a moment the boss was gone, and it was just the man who had married her on a courthouse roof with 2 witnesses and a paper ring, because the real ones weren't ready yet. "He's the closest thing I had to a father," Min-jae said. "For 20 years, you know this." "I know he counted the months I've been pregnant like they were points he was scoring. He's testing you. He's testing whether the family will still take a woman's word once I've got a baby on my hip." She pressed her palm flat to the top of her belly, where the foot was. "And whether you'll back me or manage me. Today he learned you'll manage me for 3 sentences first." Min-jae was quiet. The city slid by. "I stopped the wire," he said finally. "You did." She let her hand fall. "And I'm grateful. And I'm telling you what it cost. Both can be true." He reached over then and took her hand off her lap, and turned it, and ran his thumb once across the ring, the oval diamond, the real one, the one he'd put on her finger 18 months after the paper one, when the family finally acknowledged the marriage. She still wasn't used to the weight of it. She caught herself, some nights, turning it with her thumb the way you test a tooth. "When she's born," Min-jae said, "none of it touches you. Either of you. I've been building that wall for a year. You'll see it. I don't want a wall. I want a seat at the table that doesn't fold the second I'm holding a baby. You have a seat. I have a seat. You can move." She turned her hand over inside his, so the ring caught the passing lights. "That's not a seat. That's a favor. And favors get called back. Ask any woman who married in. Ask your sister what standing costs in that family, and whether anyone ever gives it to you for free." He didn't answer that. He kissed her knuckles instead, and she let him, because the fight underneath the fight was too old to win in a car, and because his mouth was warm and she was tired, and the baby had gone still, finally, the way she did in the evenings. But she always noticed, that he had answered the small thing and stepped around the large one. He had promised her safety. She had asked him for standing. Those were not the same, and he had swapped one for the other so smoothly that a lesser lawyer would have let it pass. She was not a lesser lawyer. She said nothing. She filed it. The apartment sat on the top 3 floors of a building that Min-jae owned through 4 companies, and Simone had stopped counting the cameras months ago. She took her shoes off inside the door, one hand on the wall for balance, and the marble was cold through her stockings. "I want to see the room," she said. He knew which room. He followed her down the hall. They had built the nursery over 8 weeks, and she had fought him on every piece of it. He wanted a designer. She wanted to pick the crib herself, and she had, from a catalog, on a Sunday, sitting on the floor of this room with a laptop while he made calls in the next one. The walls were the pale color she'd chosen, not pink, she'd been firm, a soft ivory that went gold when the evening came through the glass. There were 3 blankets folded over the rail of the crib, lavender, soft pink, ivory. She had washed them herself, twice, because the label warned about newborn skin, and she trusted her own hands more than the housekeeper's. On the low shelf by the window sat the one thing in the room she hadn't chosen, a small folded square of black silk, and inside it, wrapped, a thin silver bracelet that Min-jae's mother had worn as an infant. The only object that survived from a woman Simone had never met, a woman who had died before the family was an empire. He had given it to Simone the night they learned it was a girl. "Wrap her wrist with it the first day," he'd said. "Just the first day. Then put it away. It's the one thing that's hers before any of them can touch her." She had set it on the shelf where the morning would find it, and she had not opened the silk again. She stood in the doorway with one hand on the frame and looked at it. 2 weeks, she said. Maybe 3. Min-jae came up behind her and put both hands on her shoulders, and she leaned back into him without deciding to. "You picked a hard door to defend," he said quietly, and for a second, she thought he meant the family, the table, Dae-sung. Then his hand slid down and spread flat and warm over the front of her, over the baby, and she understood he meant this. The room. The small person who would sleep in it. "I'm good at hard doors," she said. His phone buzzed. She felt it before she heard it. The shift in him. The fractional stiffening of the hands on her shoulders. He took it out. She watched the screen light his face from below, and she watched his face do nothing, which was itself the tell, because a man whose face does nothing is a man working to keep it still. "Who?" she said. "Nobody. The office. At 9 o'clock. It's always the office at 9 o'clock. He put the phone away, face down against his palm, and the small gesture was so exactly Daesung's gesture with the teacup that her skin went cold. "Come. You should eat. You skipped the lunch again, don't think I didn't. Min-jae." He stopped. She turned around inside his arms, slow, and looked up at him. The nursery light was behind her now, and it put his face in a soft dark, and she couldn't read the dark, and she hated that she couldn't. What did the phone say? "Simone. You went still. You only go still when it's real." She put her hand flat on his chest, over the shirt, over the heart, and she could feel it going faster than a nothing phone call heart went. 3 years, I know your body better than you do. What did it say? For a moment she thought he would tell her. She saw it, the decision teetering, the truth right there behind his teeth. Then he shut it away. "The elders want to sit down," he said. "It's routine. They do it every year around now. Budget, territories, who's up, who's down." That much was true. She could hear the true part. She had learned to hear the true part, because Min-jae almost never lied outright. He was too good for that. He told you a true thing that was standing in front of a second thing, and he let you look at the true thing until you stopped asking. "Where?" she said. He hesitated. Half a second. "Vegas." The word dropped between them. "Vegas," she repeated. "The Nevada property. It has to be there. It's where the—" He stopped himself. "It's where they want it." "When?" "Tonight." She stepped back. The crib rail was behind her, and she caught it with one hand. "I'm 2 weeks out," she said. "Maybe less. The doctor said less than we think. First babies lie. She said the body lies. And you're getting on a plane. It's 11 hours out, 11 back. I'll be in the air more than I'm on the ground." He came toward her, and she watched him choose gentleness like a tool off a shelf. "I'll be back before you're awake tomorrow, before you've finished being annoyed at me for going. I'll walk in that door, and you'll still be asleep, and I'll—" "Don't." He stopped. "Don't paint me the picture," she said. "I'm not a jury. Tell me why it has to be tonight, and it has to be you, and it has to be there." And here was the second thing behind the true thing, and she watched him stand in front of it with his whole body. "Because if I don't go," Min-jae said, "someone goes instead of me, and that's worse." "For who?" "For all of us." He took her hand, the ringed one. "I'm protecting you. That's what this is. Everything I do that you don't like the shape of, it's that. The wall I told you about, tonight is a brick in it. You have to trust me on the shape, even when I can't show you the whole thing, because if I show you the whole thing, you're in it, and I will not have you in it. Not now, not with her." It was a beautiful speech. She noticed that too. She noticed everything tonight. She couldn't stop. The number 9 days old and the gloved hand pressed to the thigh, and the phone turned face down, and now this. "I'm protecting you." The 4 words that had ended every hard conversation of their marriage. "Who called?" she said. "Just now. The name." "It doesn't matter." "It's Daesung's number, isn't it?" His face didn't move. That was the answer. "The elders want the sit-down," she said slowly, working it the way she worked a document. "Or Daesung wants you in a room 11 hours from your wife, 2 weeks before she's due, and he's dressed it up as the elders." "Simone, because I stopped his wire today, in front of the Capitals, and tonight he needs you far away and busy." "You're doing the thing," Min-jae said, and now there was an edge in it, thin. The thing where the pregnancy. He caught it a half-second too late. The room went quiet, the baby, low, turned once and settled. "Say it," Simone said, very soft. "You were going to say the pregnancy is making me see things." Same as Daesung said at the table. Blood going to the child, not enough left for the judgment. You were going to say his line. "That's not—" It's exactly what it was. He shut his mouth. And to his credit, she gave him this. Even now, even with the cold going all the way through her, he didn't finish the sentence, and he didn't pretend he hadn't started it. I have to go tonight, he said instead, flat now, the boss voice, the one that ended meetings. I'll be back before morning. That's the truth. All of it that I can give you. I need you to let it be enough for one night. She looked at him for a long time. Then she took her hand out of his, and she turned the ring on her finger once with her thumb, the tooth test, the old habit, and she stopped herself doing it, and she folded her arms over the top of the baby instead. Go, she said, since it's already decided. You were always going. You told me it was decided the second you said Vegas like it was a place and not a sentence. Simone. Come back before morning, like you said. Walk in that door. She looked past him, at the crib, at the 3 folded blankets. Because I'll be here. I don't have a plane, I have a door and a room, and 8 months of a person who's going to need her father to be a man who came back. He crossed the room and he kissed her, and she let him, and she didn't kiss him back and she didn't turn away, and both of them noticed. Before morning, he said against her hair. You keep saying it, like saying it makes it a promise. He pulled back and looked at her, and there was something in his face then, something she would spend the next days trying to name. Not guilt, not yet. Guilt came later. It was closer to grief, as though a part of him already knew the shape of the thing he couldn't show her, and knew it was bigger than a wall, and knew that the brick he was laying tonight was going into a wall on the wrong side of her. I love you, he said. Whatever you believe by morning. Hold on to that one. Go catch your plane, Min-jae. He held her a second longer. His thumb moved once over the small of her back, the old private thing he did, and she felt her body want to soften toward it, and she made her body stay where it was. He went. She heard him in the hall, the low voice on the phone already. Korean, fast, the tone he used with men who worked for him. She heard the word for airport. She heard, once, clearly, a name, Dae-sung, and then the door, and then the private elevator, and then the particular silence of a very large apartment with one person in it. Simone stood in the nursery a while longer. She put her hand on the ivory rail. She straightened the lavender blanket that didn't need straightening. Down at the bottom of her, the baby pressed a foot out against the wall of her and held it there, a small insistent shape, and Simone pressed back with 2 fingers until the foot withdrew. It's you and me tonight, she said to the room. That's fine. We're good at hard doors. She turned off the nursery light. In the dark of the hall, her phone lit once. A message, Min-jae, 3 words she read standing there, with her thumb over the screen. Then it went dark again, and she stood holding it. And 11 floors down, a car pulled away toward a plane, toward Vegas, toward a room the elders may or may not have called, and Simone Brooks stood alone in the good apartment, with the cold marble and the cooling tea somewhere, and the person coming, and she did not sit down. She was still standing when the first pain came, low and small and gone before she was sure it was anything at all. She let out her breath. Not yet, she told it. He said before morning. Give the man his morning. And she waited for the second one to see if it would agree. The second contraction came at 11, and it did not agree with the first. Simone stood in the dark kitchen with both hands flat on the counter and breathed the way the class had taught her. In through the nose. Hold, out through the teeth. The counter was cold under her palms. She counted the seconds until the tightness let go, and it let go slower than she wanted. 40 seconds. She had timed it against the microwave clock. She did the math a lawyer does. 20 minutes apart. Not close. Nothing to call anyone about. First babies took their time. Marjorie had told her that twice, once with a hand on Simone's belly, and once over tea, and Marjorie had pulled 1,000 babies into the world before she retired. Simone poured a glass of water she did not drink and carried it to the couch. Half a world away, in a ballroom on the Nevada property the family had spent 4 years buying, Kang Min-jae won. He won quietly, the way the important things were won in that room. No hands raised. The eldest of the elders, a man named Chairman Own who had known Min-jae's father, set his cup down on the felt with a small deliberate click, and the click was the vote, preliminary, non-binding. The full council would sit in 48 hours. But the click meant the room had chosen, for tonight, to keep the snow wolf where he was. Min-jae felt the weight come off his shoulders and did not let it show on his face. Across the felt, Dae-sung folded his gloved hands and smiled with the lower half of his face. "To the chairman's health," Dae-sung said, and lifted his glass, and the captains lifted theirs, and the music that had been waiting behind a closed door came up warm and low. Min-jae checked his watch. 11:40, Vegas time. He calculated backward, the way he calculated everything, and got to Seoul afternoon and knew that was wrong, and did the sum again, tired, and landed on a number he did not like. He had promised to be in the air by now. He had promised a door and a morning. He turned toward the corridor to find the man who arranged the plane. A hand closed on his elbow. "Sit," Dae-sung said. "Not loud. You leave now. They see a man who came to be counted and ran before the wine. Own gave you tonight. Let him watch you enjoy it. I told her I'd be back. You'll be back." Dae-sung steered him, one gloved hand light as a coat, toward the long table where the captains had begun to laugh. "An hour. Men remember the hour you gave them more than the year." Min-jae let himself be steered. That was the thing he would take apart later, alone, 1,000 times. He let himself be steered. He sat. Somebody put a glass in his hand. His phone was in his breast pocket, the personal one, warm against his chest. There was a second phone too, black, plainer, that lived in the inside left. That one was the family's. The captains reached across it when they needed a number moved, a message sent, a man told a thing that could not be written on a line that could be traced. Ho-jin, the captain from the ports, the one who had laughed at Simone across a table in Seoul, leaned in with his collar open. "The pretty lawyer," Ho-jin said. "She's still angry?" Min-jae looked at him until Ho-jin's smile thinned. "Watch your mouth," Min-jae said. "I only meant she has fire." Ho-jin lifted both palms. "A man wants fire at home." Dae-sung set a fresh glass in front of Min-jae, replacing the full one he had not touched. "Give me the black phone," Dae-sung said, easy, like asking for the salt. "The Macau line needs an answer tonight and you're being toasted. I'll handle it. You breathe." Min-jae reached into his jacket and drew out the plain black phone and set it in Dae-sung's open glove. It was nothing. He had done it 100 times. A boss did not thumb through logistics at his own table. Dae-sung closed his fingers around it. "Good boy," he said, and the old words landed different tonight, and Min-jae was too tired to hear it. In Seoul, the third contraction woke Simone out of a half-doze on the couch, and this one she felt in her back. She sat up fast. The water glass tipped off the cushion and did not break, only rolled, spilling a dark tongue across the floor. Except it was not the glass. She stood, and the floor was wet, and it was not the glass. For one long second, Simone Brooks, who had never in her life failed to know exactly what to do, stood in the middle of the room and knew nothing at all. Then the training came back like a light snapping on. She looked at the clock. She noted the time the way she noted everything, out of habit, out of terror. 11:51. She said it out loud so she would not lose it. 11:51. Her hands were already moving. Phone. She had the phone. She called Min-jae first. Of course she called Min-jae first. It rang once, in a place she could not see, in the breast pocket of a black suit, and then it stopped ringing, and she did not know why. She would spend weeks not knowing why. "Come on," she whispered. "Come on, pick up." It went to the recording of his voice, clipped, careful, telling her to leave a message. She did not leave one. She hung up and called again. 9 feet from where his personal phone should have buzzed against his chest, a room full of men was singing. Someone had started an old drinking song, and the captains had all found the chorus, and the sound of 30 men roaring a melody drowned a great deal, but the phone was not against his chest. Dae-sung had both phones now. He had asked for the black one, and Min-jae had given it, and then Min-jae had risen to make the toast the chairman wanted, and left his jacket over the back of the chair, and the personal phone was in the jacket, and the jacket was beside Dae-sung. This was not an accident anyone had planned in a single stroke. It was 100 small openings, and Dae-sung had spent 30 years learning to walk through them. The personal phone lit. A name on the glass. Her name. Dae-sung looked at it for the length of one breath. Then he turned the phone face down on the white tablecloth, the exact gesture, the one that ran in the family like an eye color, and he slid it under the folded edge of Min-jae's jacket where the sound would go to cloth. He did not decline the call. Declining leaves a mark. He let it wring itself out into the wool. Simone called a third time. He's not. She pressed her forehead against the cold window and made herself breathe. Another contraction was coming. She could feel it gathering low, a fist closing. She hung up and called the one other person on this earth she trusted before dawn. Marjorie Bennett picked up on the second ring, and her voice, even at midnight, was a hand you could hold. She had been a nurse for 30 years before her knees retired her, and there was no hour of the night that could catch her unready. She was already sitting up in bed when the phone rang. She had, in truth, been half waiting for it. A woman 2 weeks out and a husband gone across an ocean was a woman a good nurse kept one ear open for. "Baby, what is it?" "My water broke." Simone's own voice came out steadier than she felt, and she was proud of it and hated that she was proud of it. "Marjorie, it broke, and he's not answering, and it's early. It's too early." "How far apart?" 9 minutes, maybe 8. A pause, and in the pause Simone heard Marjorie already moving. A drawer, keys. "I'm on my floor and you're on yours. I'm at your door in 90 seconds. You breathe for me. You hearing me? Breathe for me, and put shoes on. Flat ones." "Okay." "Simone," Marjorie's voice dropped. "Where is that man?" "Vegas." Marjorie said nothing for 1 full second, which from Marjorie was a whole paragraph. "Then he's Vegas's problem," she said. "You're mine. Shoes." In the ballroom, the song ended, and the men cheered themselves. Min-jae came back to the table, warm from the noise, and reached for his jacket to check the time, and Dae-sung's gloved hand arrived on the wool first, smoothing it as if to keep it from sliding. "Sit," Dae-sung said. "One more." Then the plane. "I need my phone." "You need to be seen." But Dae-sung lifted the jacket and handed it across, and in the handing, his thumb pressed the personal phone deeper into the inner pocket, and by the time the phone was in Min-jae's hand, the screen had gone dark and quiet. Min-jae woke the screen. 2 missed calls, both her. The last one 9 minutes ago. Something moved in his chest that had nothing to do with wine. He was on his feet before he decided to stand. He thumbed the screen to call her back, and the reception in the deep, windowless ballroom crawled. 1 bar, none. And the men around him were laughing about something, and a captain caught his sleeve to tell him a story, and Min-jae, boss of the Kang Empire, master of the room, did the smallest and most human and most unforgivable thing. He did not walk out. He was 3 steps from a corridor with signal. He had 2 missed calls from his wife who was 2 weeks from her due date, and Chairman Owen was watching from the head of the table, and 48 hours from now this room would decide whether the snow wolf kept his teeth, and a man who ran from his own honoring looked like a man with something at home he could not control. He typed instead, fast, thumbs clumsy. "Love you. We'll talk soon." He hit send. He told himself he would call the moment he was in the car. He told himself she was probably calling to ask which flight, to fight about the elders, to say goodnight. He told himself the story a man tells when the truth is standing 3 steps away in a lit corridor, and he chooses the dark, warm room. The message reached her in the back of Marjorie's car. Simone read it between contractions, in the wash of a streetlight, and her whole body went still around the 6 flat words. "Love you. We'll talk soon." Not, "Where are you?" Not, "I'm coming." Not, "Is it the baby?" "We'll talk soon." She understood, in the cold, clean way she understood a fraudulent transfer, that he had seen her calls. You did not type. "We'll talk soon." To calls you had not seen. He had seen 2 missed calls from her, tonight of all nights, and he had answered with the message a man sends to a meeting he does not want to leave. "Eyes on me," Marjorie said from the front, watching her in the mirror. "Not the phone. Me." Simone put the phone face down on her own thigh. She had learned the gesture from him. She noticed that, distantly, the way you notice a splinter you'll deal with later. "He saw," she said. "Breathe. Marjorie, he saw my calls. I heard you. Breathe first. Be furious after. The baby doesn't wait for the argument. Marjorie took a corner smooth as water. Furious keeps. I promise you, furious keeps. The hospital took Simone in a rush of light and questions. Premature, they said, 36 weeks and change, which was early, but not the earliest, which was the kind of early that made everyone move faster and speak calmer, and that combination is its own particular fear. They put a band on her wrist. They asked for the father. Marjorie said the father was traveling and said it in a voice that closed the subject. In the elevator, Marjorie held Simone's hand and talked, low and steady, about nothing, about the weather, about a cousin's wedding, about a soup she made that took a whole Sunday. Simone knew what the talking was for and let it work anyway. Between the words, the pain came and went in its widening rhythm, and each time it came, Marjorie squeezed once and said, "Ride it, don't fight it, ride it." And each time it passed, she picked the soup back up where she'd left it. "You're doing beautiful," Marjorie said. "You hear me? Beautiful." He's still not called. I know it. I keep listening for it, the phone. I can't stop. Marjorie took Simone's face in one warm hand and turned it toward her. Then, give the phone to me. She held out her palm. You can't do this and wait for a man at the same time. Pick the baby. Give me the phone. Simone put the phone in the older woman's hand. It was the second time in one night she had let go of something she had been gripping too hard, and both times, it was a relief she was ashamed of. They wheeled her down a corridor the color of skim milk. Somewhere over the Pacific, there was supposed to be a plane. There was no plane. Min-jae was still in the ballroom because Dae-sung had told the man who arranged the plane to fuel slow, and because Chairman On had asked the Snow Wolf to sit one more hour and no one refused Chairman On, and because the small openings kept opening and someone kept walking Min-jae gently away from the door. Min-jae texted her again from the corridor at last, when the signal caught. Calling now. Then he called. It rang in a plastic tray in a nurse's station while Simone was being told to push. They had taken her phone with her clothes. That is all it was. That is all it ever is, at the bottom of the worst things. A phone in a tray, a man an hour too late leaving a room he should have left, a nurse's kind flat voice saying, "One more, honey, one more." Hannah Brooks Kang was born at 2:19 in the morning, Seoul time, small and furious and breathing on her own, which the whole room had been afraid she would not do. She was breathing on her own. Simone heard the cry before she saw her, a thin, outraged sound, the sound of someone who had been comfortable and was now cold and had opinions about it, and Simone laughed, and it came out as a sob, and Marjorie, who had talked her way past a rule to be in the room, had both hands pressed to her own mouth. "There she is," Marjorie said. "There's your girl." They put Hannah on Simone's chest for one held minute before the incubator, 1 minute of warm weight and a fist the size of a strawberry closing around nothing, around air, around the edge of the hospital gown, light brown skin, a whirl of dark hair, dark eyes not yet able to find a face, searching anyway. Her father was not there. Simone counted the people in the room, a doctor, 2 nurses, a woman from down the hall who had delivered 1,000 babies and been retired for 6 years and come anyway. 4 people who were not the father. She did not cry about him. She would have said, later, that she was too busy. The truth she did not say was that some part of her had already stepped back from the man. One clean step, the way you step back from a ledge, and from that step the fall did not reach her yet. They took Hannah to the warmer. Simone was moved to a room with a window and a low blue light, and the hour after a birth is its own strange country. The body wrung out, the room too bright and too quiet at once, and someone had left the television on. She would remember that the television was on because of the pity in the nurse's hand when she reached for the remote and Simone said, "Leave it." She wanted noise. She wanted the world to keep being the world outside this room, where she had just done the largest thing a person can do with no one beside her. The television gave her the world. It was a family channel, a gossip stream, the kind that ran phone footage with a scroll of Hangul across the bottom, and Simone did not read Hangul fast, but she read faces at a professional level, and the face on the screen was her husband's. She sat up. The footage was dim and shaking, shot from a low angle at a long table, a phone held below a lapel, men, a ballroom, glasses up, and at the center, Unmistakable even at that resolution, the line of that jaw, the dark shape at the side of his neck rising out of the collar, Min-jae on his feet with a glass in his hand, and his mouth open in a laugh she knew, the real one, the one he saved. The captains around him were singing. She could not hear it well, but she could see 30 mouths on the same shape. The scroll ran its silent letters. She caught one word she knew. Snow. She caught a timestamp in the corner of the phone footage, burned in the way those phones burned them, small white numbers, and her lawyer's eye read them before her heart could stop it. The numbers were the hour she had been calling. The numbers were the hour her water broke, and the hour after, the whole raw stretch of it, and there he was, glass up, head back, being sung to. Someone had shot this. Someone had shot it and put it on a family stream within hours, which was not how those men lived. Those men lived in the dark. They did not leak their own toasts to a gossip channel by morning. Someone had wanted this scene. Someone had wanted her to see it in a blue-lit room with the warmth of the baby not yet cold on her chest. She did not know the name yet. She would learn it. But even now, empty and shaking, some cold, clean part of her filed the thought. This was aimed. The nurse came to check the line in her arm and saw her face and followed her eyes to the dark screen and did not understand, and Simone was grateful she did not understand. Some things you did not want witnessed while they were still happening to you. "Can I get you anything?" the nurse said. "No." "The father, do you want us to keep trying his?" "No," Simone said, gently, because none of this was the nurse's doing. "Thank you. No." The nurse went. The room settled back into its hum, the low machines, the far cry of some other newborn down the ward, and into that hum Simone lay very still and let herself feel exactly one thing at a time, because that was the only way she knew to hold a thing this size. First, her daughter was alive and breathing on her own. Second, she had done it with no one who shared her blood or her name in the room. Third, while she did it, the man who had promised a door and a morning had lifted a glass, and someone had made sure she saw it. She let the third one sit. She did not push it away. She had spent 3 years pushing small versions of it away, and she was done pushing. She looked at the ring, the oval diamond he had given her 18 months after a paper ring on a rooftop, the one she turned with her thumb when she was thinking, the one she had worn through 3 years, and a wedding worth 2 witnesses, and every reason to leave, and every reason to stay. She looked at the man on the screen with his glass up. She looked at the ring. She turned it once with her thumb, the old motion, the tooth test she did without knowing she did it. Then she stopped turning it. Down the hall, in a warmer under a heat lamp, a 1-hour-old girl slept with her fist against her cheek, and the pulse in that small wrist was strong, and there was a silver bracelet in a Seoul apartment wrapped in black silk on a shelf, meant for the first day, and no one had brought it, and no one would, because the man who was meant to bring it was on a television lifting a glass. Simone worked the ring over the knuckle. It did not want to come. Her hands had swelled through the pregnancy and the birth, and it caught on the joint, and she twisted it and pulled, and it hurt, and she was glad it hurt, and it came free. She held it in her palm, a small, cold weight. Less than she expected, the way the truth is always less than you expected, one thin line of gold and a stone. On the screen, her husband laughed his real laugh at something a man beside him said, a man in charcoal gray with gloved hands whose face the camera never quite found. Simone closed her fist around the ring. "Turn it off now," she said, and her voice was very level, and the nurse turned it off, and the room went dark blue and quiet, and the mother lay back against the pillows with a fist full of gold, and a daughter down the hall, and a marriage on the far side of a step she had already taken. 9 time zones away, Min-jae finally reached the car. The night air hit him and the signal came clean and full, and he called her, and it rang, and a voice that was not hers answered on the 6th ring, an older woman's voice, steady as a closed door. "She's resting," Marjorie said. "The baby's here, both alive. You can stop your calling." Min-jae stood in a Nevada parking lot in a black suit with a dragon on his neck, and every muscle in his body went to stone. The baby. When? 2 hours ago. A pause with an edge on it. You'd know the minute if you'd picked up. Put her on, please. Put Simone on. She's resting, Marjorie said again, and the way she said it a second time was not about rest. You'll want to think, on that long flight, about what you say when you get here. Think hard, she's going to have questions, and one of them is going to be where you were. A breath. I already know the answer. I saw the same television she did. The line went dead. Min Jae looked at the phone in his hand. 2 missed calls, hours old. 1 message he had sent. Love you. We'll talk soon. He read his own words and did not recognize the man who had chosen them over a lit corridor 3 steps away. Behind him, the ballroom doors were still warm with light and song. Somewhere inside, a man in gray gloves who had asked for a black phone and been given it was watching the room the way a clockmaker watches a clock he has set. And the family stream had already pushed the footage to 400,000 phones, and the word under the video, the one Simone could not read, said, "While his empire drinks, who minds the house?" Min Jae did not know any of that yet. He knew only that his daughter was 2 hours old on the other side of the world, and he had learned her existence from his wife's neighbor, and that when he walked through whatever door they finally opened to him, the woman on the far side of it would be turning something over in her hand, and it would not be the ring. The email came in at 6:04 in the morning, and Simone read it standing beside the incubator with her thumb still pressed to the warm plastic where her daughter slept. She had not slept. 3 hours of holding a phone she would not answer, watching a chest the size of her palm rise and fall under wires, and then the soft chime of a message from an address she knew too well, the Nevada Gaming Control Board. Subject line, Notice of Formal Inquiry. She read the first paragraph twice, then sat down in the vinyl chair because her legs told her to. 3 contracts, her digital signature, timestamps between 11:40 p.m. and 2:30 a.m. Pacific, the exact window her body had been splitting open in a Seoul delivery room. $9,400,000 routed through holding companies to 2 shell vendors and 1 property management firm that, she already understood, would turn out not to exist. Her hand went to the phone, not to call anyone, to check the timestamps against her own night. They lined up. Of course they lined up. Whoever built this had known when she'd be somewhere she could never account for. Marjorie stirred in the far chair, the floral brooch still pinned to the cardigan she'd thrown on at midnight. You made a sound, she said, eyes still closed. I'm fine. You made a sound like a person who isn't fine. Simone turned the phone face down on her knee, then caught the irony a second too late. That gesture, the one she'd watched 2 different men make to hide 2 different betrayals. She turned it back over. They're saying I signed things, she said, during the birth, contracts, millions of dollars, moving to companies that don't exist. Marjorie opened her eyes. You were unconscious for part of that. I was in stirrups for all of it. Then you have the best alibi a woman ever had, 12 witnesses and a baby. Simone almost laughed. It came out wrong, closer to a cough. Because Marjorie was thinking like a mother, and Simone was already thinking like the board, and the board did not care where her body had been. Digital signatures don't attend births. They fire from a key, and the key was registered to her, and the key had signed. An alibi proves I wasn't at a keyboard, she said. It doesn't prove the keyboard wasn't mine. Marjorie was quiet. Down the hall, a cart rolled past, wheels squeaking on the polish. How bad, Marjorie said. Not a question. If I can't show I didn't authorize them, I lose the license, mine, to practice. Simone kept her voice level, the way she kept it in rooms full of men who wanted her rattled. The board can bar an attorney of record from regulated gaming for life. And every firm that ever hired me pulls the retainer the afternoon the notice goes public. And when does it go public? These things always go public. She stood and walked to the window, because sitting still let the thing climb up her throat. Seoul, gray and enormous, the river a flat ribbon under low cloud. Somewhere across it a plane had finally, hours too late, gotten off the ground. I need my laptop, the encrypted one, in the apartment, and I need Evelyn. Simone was already composing the message in her head, the access she'd need. Work was a floor she could stand on. Somebody used my credentials while I was here. That leaves a shape, a time, a machine, a door that opened. I find the door, I find the person. And the person is, I don't say things I can't file yet. But she was already saying it inside her own skull, and the name had one shape, and it wore black gloves. The nurse's name was Han Ji-woo, and she came in at 6:40 to check Hana's monitors, and she was the one who told Simone that a man was at the ward doors. "He says he's the father," Ji-woo said, reading Simone's face for the answer she was supposed to give. "Security won't let him past without your word. He's been out there 20 minutes. Simone asked the only thing that mattered. "Has he seen her?" "Through the glass, from the corridor. That's as far as he's come. 9 hours late, one ocean crossed, and he'd gotten as far as a pane of glass and stopped because a security guard told him to. He can look, he doesn't come in." Ji-woo hesitated. "He gave me something. For you." She reached into the pocket of her scrubs and held out her closed hand, then opened it. The oval diamond sat in her palm, the band that had left a red groove Simone could still feel. He'd stood at the glass, learned he could not pass, and reached for the one object he thought could pass in his place. He'd sent the ring in like an ambassador. "He said," Ji-woo started. "Don't." Simone's voice was soft. It stopped the young nurse cold anyway. "I don't need the message. Put it on the tray. It's not going back on my hand, and it's not coming to me from his." Ji-woo set it on the steel tray by the sink, where it caught the fluorescent light. Nobody looked at it. It sat there being worth more than the nurse's month, meaning nothing. "He can see her from the corridor. That's the whole of what he gets today." Ji-woo nodded and left. Marjorie watched Simone the way you watch someone standing near an edge. "You want me out there?" Marjorie asked. "No? You want to see him?" "No." Simone. "I don't want to see him, Marjorie. I want to see the log files on a transfer that stole my life while I was pushing." Her voice cracked on the last word, and she hated the tell. She pressed the heel of her hand flat against her sternum until it passed. "Both things are true. I can hold two true things." Marjorie didn't argue. She put a warm hand flat on Simone's back, between the shoulder blades, and left it there until Simone's breathing came back down to the count. Min-jae stood at the glass with his overcoat still on. He had worn it through 11 hours of pressurized air and a car ride he did not remember. Through the glass, in the third bassinet from the left, a baby had a card taped to the clear plastic. Brooks Kang. He read the hyphen. He read his own name on the far side of it, second, after hers, and understood in a wordless way that the order was not an accident. She was smaller than his forearm. One fist was up by her ear. It opened and closed once, gripping nothing, and something in his chest tore quietly along a seam he hadn't known was there. Behind him, the guard shifted his weight. He had already asked 3 times, in a voice he kept flat, because the flat voice was the only thing holding him up, and 3 times the answer had been the same. Not without the mother's word. And the mother's word had not come. The ring had felt, when he handed it to the nurse, like the smartest move available. Proof, offering, apology folded into an object worth a car. The second it left his fingers, he understood it was the stupidest thing he'd done in a decade. You do not send a woman a diamond through a stranger's hand as an argument for why she should let you hold your child. Simone had never once, in 3 years, believed the diamond was the point. That was why he'd married her on a courthouse roof with a paper ring. The nurse came back down the corridor. He read her walk before she reached him. "She says you can see the baby from here," Ji-woo said, gentle, in Korean. "She's not ready for a visit." "Is my daughter healthy?" "Premature, breathing on her own. The doctors are pleased." A small mercy in her face. "That's a good sign, the breathing." "And Simone?" "Tired." A pause. "Strong." He nodded and put both hands in the coat pockets because he didn't trust them loose. Through the glass, the fist opened and closed again. "I'll wait," he said. "You may be waiting a long time." "I have time now," he said, and heard how obscene it was the moment it left him. He'd had time at 11:40 last night, 3 steps from a corridor with a full signal, and he'd spent it typing 8 words and telling himself he'd call from the car. He stood at the glass and understood, watching his daughter's hand grip the air, that this was the exact shape of what he'd done to her mother, close enough to see, and on the wrong side of the glass by his own choosing. By 9, Simone had the laptop. Marjorie had gone to the apartment and back in a taxi and returned with the encrypted machine, a phone charger, and a bag of clothes that were not a hospital gown, which Simone did not change into because changing meant stopping, and she was not stopping. She sat in the vinyl chair with the laptop on the rolling tray table, the incubator at her right hand, and she opened the signing platform's audit portal. The 3 signatures were there. Clean, green check marks, valid certificates, her name, her key ID, 3 timestamps in the dead middle of her worst night. She pulled the metadata on the first one and stopped. The signing request had originated from her firm's legal server. The credential was live, authenticated, correct. But the biometric confirmation, the second factor, the fingerprint that the platform required for transfers over 5 million, had come through a different channel entirely. A terminal she didn't recognize, on the casino network. In Nevada. She sat very still. 2 doors. Not one, the legal server, which held her signing key, and a gaming floor terminal 11 time zones away, which had somehow produced her fingerprint. 2 systems that did not talk to each other, both opening in the same 90-minute window while she was unconscious under a surgical drape. Whoever did this hadn't stolen a password. A password is 1 door. This was 2 doors, on 2 continents, opening in concert. Someone who could stand inside both houses at once because the walls between them had been built by people who trusted him. Marjorie, get Evelyn on a video call, now. I don't care what time it is where she is. Her hands were steady on the keys. The part of her that shook had shaken itself out sometime in the last hour, and what was left was the part that read logs. She started a fresh document, titled it with the case number the board had assigned her, and began writing down what she saw. 2 origination points, 1 impossible fingerprint, a window that matched her medical records to the minute, building the spine of a defense with an IV line still taped to the back of her hand. The laptop chimed. Evelyn's face filled the screen, low braided ponytail loose from sleep, gold-rimmed glasses shoved up into it, a lamp on somewhere behind her. Tell me you're calling to say she's here, Evelyn said, and then she saw Simone's face, saw the gown, saw the tray table, and her whole voice changed. Simone, where's the baby? Right here. She's fine. She's early, and she's fine. Simone turned the laptop a few degrees so the camera caught the edge of the incubator, the small shape inside it, and gave Evelyn exactly 2 seconds of it. That's all you get. We're working. You are in a hospital gown. Evelyn, Nevada opened a formal inquiry on me 4 hours ago. 3 signatures, mine, 9.4 million to Shell's, all fired while I was in delivery. I'm looking at the audit trail right now, and the second factor came off a terminal I have never touched, on the casino floor, while my key fired from the legal server in Seoul. 2 origination points. One of them made my fingerprint out of nothing. The sleep was gone from Evelyn's face like it had never been there. Simone watched her partner become the other thing she was, the one the banks called when they couldn't explain a number. Say the second factor channel again. Biometric. Fingerprint gate. Required over 5 million. It cleared. From a terminal at other tunated. Simone was already forwarding the metadata, fingers moving. It cleared, Ev. Somebody put my thumb on a scanner in Las Vegas. At the same minute my thumb was gripping a bed rail in Seoul. You can't fake a live fingerprint scan without the pattern file. I know. That's not a hack. That's a copy of your biometric template stapled to a network job. Somebody had to be standing at that terminal, and somebody had to have your print already sitting in a file to feed it. Evelyn was writing now, off-screen, the scratch of it audible. This isn't one person at a laptop in a basement. This is somebody inside, both places. Yes. They looked at each other through 2 cameras and 11 time zones, and neither said the name, because Simone didn't say things she couldn't file, and Evelyn had learned that from her. But both of them were thinking about a man who wore gloves indoors and had asked, last night, in a room full of witnesses, for the second phone. I'm coming to Seoul, Evelyn said. You're not. I need you where the casino network is. Pull logs, badge logs, the terminal's access history for 90 days, before somebody realizes a mother with a newborn is awake and reading. You in Seoul is you far from the evidence. Simone, I'm fine. You keep saying that word like it's a load-bearing wall. Right now it is. Evelyn nodded. Once, the way she nodded when the argument was over and the work had started. Send me everything. Don't touch the signatures again from your key. Every authentication writes a new line, and I want the trail clean. Read only from here. Already read only. Of course you are. A breath. I'm sorry about the part that isn't the case. Simone's thumb found the edge of the incubator. Warm plastic. The small chest going up, going down. Work the case, Ev, she said, and ended the call before the other thing could get into her voice. Yuna came at 11. Simone hadn't asked her to. So Yuna arrived on her own, navy suit, corporate tablet under one arm, and stood in the doorway until Simone looked up and, after a moment, tipped her head at the second chair. My brother's downstairs. In the lobby. Yuna sat, the tablet on her knees. They wouldn't let him keep standing at the ward doors. He's going to be down there as long as it takes. I told him it was a bad negotiating posture. He said it wasn't a negotiation. A pause. He looks like he lost a fight he didn't know he was in. He wasn't in the room when it happened. That's the whole problem. Yuna took that. She read structures, systems, the org chart under the family's silk. She ran the hotels. She knew where the money slept. I saw the notice. The board's inquiry, an hour ago. She turned the tablet flat on her lap. Those contracts. I know 2 of the shells. I've seen those names before. In a routing memo months ago that I killed because the vendors didn't clear our own due diligence. Someone resurrected them. Simone's pen stopped. You have that memo. I have the version where I flagged them. I don't have who resurrected them. Then get me the flag with the date, and don't email it. Bring it on paper, or bring it on a drive you hand me. Simone heard herself and softened it half a degree. Yuna, I don't know yet whose side of this you're going to be able to stand on when it gets loud. The family votes in. She checked the clock she was keeping in her head. 30-some hours. You're the director of their hotels. Helping me might cost you your seat. I know what it might cost. Yuna's voice was even. My brother married you on a roof with a paper ring, and I stood on that roof as one of your 2 witnesses, and I have watched, for 3 years, this family treat the smartest person in every room like she was decoration, because of what she is and where she's from. So, she finally woke the tablet, turned it so Simone could see a spreadsheet, a red flag in a cell, a date 4 months old. The flag has a date. I'll bring you the paper by tonight, and I'll tell you one more thing, because you'll want it before the vote. Tell me. The elders. There's a motion on the agenda I only saw this morning. Yuna's jaw tightened. To register Hana as Kang, as a recognized heir to the succession. Simone went cold in a specific place, low, under the sternum. They want my daughter on their books, she said. They want leverage. A recognized heir is a claim. It ties her to the family charter, which means to the family's obligations, which means, if things go the way someone wants them to go, to the family's liabilities. If you're indicted and the family's under a cloud, an heir is a handle. On her, and on you, through her. Simone looked at the incubator, at the card. Brooks Kang, her name first. She had insisted on the order in a phone call from a maternity ward, and now she understood the order was not vanity, it was a wall, and the wall was already being tested. Over my dead body, Simone said, quiet, and it was the calmest sentence she'd said all morning. She let him come at 2 in the afternoon. Not into the ward. Into the small family room down the corridor, the one with the vinyl couch and the vending machine and the window that looked at an air shaft. She chose it on purpose. Neutral ground, no bassinet in it, nothing of Hana's for him to stand near and make his own by standing there. He came in still wearing the overcoat. He'd been in the building 6 hours and hadn't taken it off, and she read that the way she read everything now. A man who would not let himself get comfortable, who was standing in his own skin like a guest. For a moment, neither of them spoke. She was too tired to rehearse and too disciplined to improvise emotion, so she looked at him, at the seam of exhaustion running down the middle of his face, and waited to feel the thing she was afraid she'd feel, longing. It didn't come. What came was clarity, cold and clean, and she was grateful for it. She's beautiful, he said, in English. His voice came out rough. I saw her, through the... I know where you saw her. He flinched. Small. He covered it. Simone. Sit down. We're not doing the part where you tell me how you feel. She stayed standing. You crossed the world to get here, and I'm not going to pretend that's nothing. It's also 9 hours late, and the 9 hours is the whole conversation. He sat. He put his hands on his knees like a man in a waiting room, which he was. The ring, he started. Don't. I shouldn't have sent it with the nurse. No, you shouldn't have. She let that sit. You sent a diamond in to argue for you because you didn't have anything else you trusted to walk through that door. And the only thing that could have walked through it and meant something was you, at 11:40 last night on a phone. You sent 8 words instead. His jaw worked. You don't know what that room was. I watched it on the television in my recovery ward. The whole family did. 400,000 phones watched you raise a glass while your wife called you twice from a delivery floor. Her voice never rose. That was what made him look at his own hands. I'm not here to relitigate the party. It's over. There's nothing left in it to discuss. Then what are you here for? To make an agreement, she said it flat, the way she said things across conference tables. You're her father, that's biology, and it's the only thing you are to her that's automatic. Everything else, every time you're in a room with her, every decision, every dollar, and every name, and every claim, is going to be papered. In writing, with a neutral attorney, neither yours nor mine, drafting it. He was quiet. He'd expected grief, maybe. A fight. She was handing him a term sheet. You want a custody agreement? He said slowly. She's 14 hours old. I want a paternity agreement. Formal acknowledgement, formal terms, formal boundaries. Because right now your family has a motion on the table to register her as a Kang heir. She saw the news land, saw that he didn't know, that it hit him fresh. Good. They want her on their charter, as a claim, as a handle. And the only thing between my daughter and being a line item in a Mafia succession is paper, and I am very good at paper. He'd gone still in the way she'd learned to fear, the stillness that meant he was doing math about who to hurt. But there was nobody in this room to hurt. Only his own family, across an ocean, reaching for his child. They put her on the agenda, he said, half to himself, without telling me. That should tell you something, about who's actually running the vote. His hands closed on his knees. She watched the knuckle where his own black signet ring sat, noted that he still wore it, and said nothing about it yet. I'll sign whatever protects her, he said. Draft it. Today. It's going to be right, which takes longer than today. She stepped toward the door. The tank was hitting empty, and she would not empty it in front of him. Daniel Cho, independent, family law, no ties to your people or my firm. You'll deal with him, not me. Every word between us that touches her goes through him from now on. Simone. He stood. The coat fell straight. I'm not the one who did this to you. She stopped with her hand on the door. She turned her head, not all the way, enough. I know who did this to me. 2 origination points and a fingerprint that shouldn't exist, and I'm about 36 hours from proving it. So no, I don't think you built it. She opened the door, but you handed him the second phone, and you stayed for the toast, and you sent a diamond in with a nurse. You keep handing the people who hurt me exactly what they need. That's close enough that I'm going to paper every inch of my daughter's life against you until you show me it isn't who you are. She left him standing in the family room with the vending machine humming, walked back down the corridor with her spine straight, and did not let herself lean on the wall until the door had closed and there was glass between him and everything she had left to lose. At 6 that evening, Yuna brought the paper, printed, in a plain folder, hand to hand, no server, no trail. The routing memo with the red flag, the date 4 months old, the 2 shell names she'd killed once and someone had raised from the dead. Simone read it under the incubator light and felt one more piece slide into a shape. There's a 3rd name on the board's notice that isn't on your memo, Simone said. A property management firm, new, registered 9 days before the transfers. Yuna's face did something complicated. 9 days, same pattern as the vendor from the Seoul meeting, the one you froze. The same hand, working the same trick, twice, 4 months apart. Simone sat back. A dead man's signature in the spring, her own in the fall. She wasn't looking at a fraud anymore. She was looking at a method, somebody's craft. And she thought of the man who wore gloves indoors, who'd pressed a hand to his own thigh in a Seoul conference room the day she'd caught the first 9-day company, and who had known, somehow, precisely when she'd be too busy being born again as a mother to watch her own name. Evelyn's pulling the terminal logs. If someone stood at that scanner in Nevada, they walked through a door to get to it, and the door kept a record. And if they wiped it, Then the wipe kept a record. Everything keeps a record. That's the one thing this family never understood about me. Simone closed the folder. They thought I was decoration. I'm a witness. I've been a witness the whole time. Una stood, smoothed her navy suit, and said the thing she'd been holding since the doorway. The vote's tomorrow night. Once they seat, the motion on Hannah comes up in the first hour. If you're going to stop them papering her as an heir, you have until then. She picked up her tablet. And after tomorrow, whoever built this stops needing to hide. If the family closes ranks and you're indicted, they don't need the fraud secret anymore. They just need you gone. The door closed behind her. Simone sat alone with her daughter and a folder full of 9-day companies. Outside, Seoul went dark blue. 11 floors down, a man in an overcoat sat in a lobby chair he would not leave, and somewhere across an ocean, a fingerprint that could not exist waited in a file for someone to find it. She opened a new line in her document and wrote a name at the top of it, the first time she'd let herself commit it to a file. Under it, she wrote a single word, the only thing left she could prove she wanted. Time. 30-some hours of it. Between her and the vote. Between her daughter and a charter written in blood. She looked at the number, then at the small chest rising and falling under the wires, and she did the only thing a person can do when the clock is that short. She started to work faster. The numbers on the screen did not move faster just because she wanted them to. Simone learned that at 4:12 in the morning, on her third coffee, with Hannah asleep 6 feet away under the wires, so she stopped waiting for the machine and started asking it better questions. Evelyn's face filled half the laptop. The other half was a folder of badge logs, 90 days deep, scrolling. Terminal 7, Evelyn said. Casino floor, executive mezzanine. That's your biometric gate. Who badged in during the window? Nobody. Simone leaned closer. Nobody? Terminal 7 has no badge reader. It's a legacy unit. You wave the card at the door of the room, then the machine inside just wants the finger. Evelyn pulled her glasses down her nose. So the room log tells us who opened the door. The machine log tells us who touched the pad. They should be the same person. And they're not. The door opened once, at 12:41 Pacific. The pad fired 3 times between 12:44 and 1:58. Evelyn let that sit. One person walked in. That one person authenticated 3 contracts as you. Simone wrote the times on the back of a hospital menu, because paper does not sync to a server anyone can reach. I need the door log name, she said. That's the part, Evelyn said. The door log is clean. Housekeeping code. A cart badge. Someone used a cleaning cart badge to open an executive terminal room. At 1 in the morning, during a private party 2 floors up. Evelyn's mouth went flat. Simone, nobody cleans that floor during a lockdown event. Nobody's supposed to be up there at all. Down the hall, a monitor chirped and reset. Simone glanced at Hannah. The small chest kept its rhythm. She looked back at the screen. Then somebody who wasn't supposed to be there, she said, brought a stolen janitor badge so the room wouldn't remember his face. That's my read. Get me the cart badge number. Get me the housekeeping roster for that shift. I want to know which cart was supposedly on the executive floor at 12:41, and I want to know where that cart actually was. Evelyn was already typing. Pulls read only. Slower. Give me an hour. You have 40 minutes. You always give me the impossible number. Because you always beat it. Simone almost smiled. 40. Evelyn's window shrank to a corner. The pull bar crawled. 1% at a time. Read only and slow on purpose. Because a fast pull leaves fingerprints, and Simone had told her to leave none. Every minute the bar didn't move, the vote got closer. Every minute it did, so did she. Simone closed the lid halfway and pressed the heels of her hands into her eyes. When she opened them, Marjorie was standing in the door with 2 paper cups. You slept 11 minutes, Marjorie said. I counted. I don't have 11 minutes to spare. You have a daughter who's going to want a mother, not a case file. Marjorie set the cup down anyway. Drink. Then win. In that order. Simone drank. Her phone lit at 5:20. Not Evelyn. Daniel Cho, the neutral attorney, awake because she had made him awake. The paternity draft is ready for your eyes, Cho said. But that's not why I'm calling at dawn. Then why? Mr. Kang requested a clause. Through his own counsel, not through me, which is already improper. so I'm telling you. Cho paused. He wants a provision that would let him relocate you and the child outside Korean jurisdiction. Immediately. Protective custody, his phrasing. Simone stood up so fast the chair skated. He wants to move us out of the country. He's calling it safety. Of course he is. She walked to the window. Seoul was gray and starting to wake. 10,000 lights going from gold to nothing as the sun came up. Daniel, did his people give you a destination? A property, family held. Offshore. Cho hesitated. Simone, off the record. A man who wants you and his child on a private island under his family's control, 48 hours before a vote that decides who runs that family. That is not automatically a rescue. No, she said. It's automatically a cage with a nice view. I'm required to present it to you. Consider it presented. The answer is no, in writing, today. She watched a delivery truck turn a corner far below. And Daniel, strike it from every version. If it appears again, I'll know he didn't hear me the first time. She hung up before Cho could soften it. Min-jae came at 7. She had known he would. He had spent the night in the lobby again, and men who sleep in lobbies come upstairs at the first excuse. Yuna texted the warning 30 seconds ahead. He's moving. He has the folder. Simone met him in the family room. Not the ward. Never the ward. She had made that rule, and she would keep making it until it stopped costing her something to keep it. He still wore the coat. 20 hours in it now. There was a shadow along his jaw and a stillness in him that she had learned, over 3 years, to distrust more than his anger. You said no to the clause, he said. You put a clause in front of a lawyer who works for neither of us, she answered. You went around Daniel. You already broke the one rule I gave you. I'm trying to get you somewhere they can't reach. They. She folded her arms. Say the name, Min-jae. His jaw worked. He did not say it. You can't, she said. You'll move me across an ocean, but you won't say his name in a hospital room. Do you hear how that sounds? If I say it before I can prove it, I lose the vote, and then I can't protect anyone. He set the folder on the table between them. Flat, deliberate, the way he set everything he wanted her to pick up. The island is real. The staff is ours. Nobody touches Hana there. Nobody touches Hana there except you and everyone who answers to you. She did not touch the folder. You want me somewhere the only door out is a boat you own. I've read that contract before. It doesn't have my name on the good side. Something in his face moved. You think I think you keep offering me walls. She heard her own voice go quiet, which was worse than loud. I asked you for standing 3 years ago, and you built me a fence. I asked you again in the car in Seoul, and you offered me a wall. And now, when the whole thing is on fire, you show up with an island. That's a bigger wall, Min-jae. That's all it is. He was quiet. Behind him, through the glass, a nurse crossed the corridor with a chart. Then what do you want? He said. Not a challenge. Closer to defeat. I want the truth on paper, signed by the man who made it. I want my license, and I want to do it here, standing up, with my name spelled right. She uncrossed her arms and put both hands flat on the table, mirroring the folder without picking it up. I'm not running. I'm auditing. There's a difference, and you never learned it. An audit doesn't stop a bullet. Neither does an island. It just means the bullet arrives by boat. She held his gaze. You keep solving the wrong problem, Min-jae. You think the danger is out there, in the dark, coming for us. It isn't. It's inside. It's been inside the whole time, wearing the family's face. And every time you build me a wall, you build it around the wrong thing. You lock the door and hand the key to the man in the house. An audit takes weeks. The vote is tonight. Then I work faster than the vote. He looked at her hands. The ring was not on them. He had known that since the steel tray, but he looked anyway, the way a man checks a wound to see if it still bleeds. You'll lose, he said softly. They'll indict you before you finish. That's the design. Then help me break the design instead of shipping me off it. She held his eyes. Or go sit in the lobby. He picked up the folder. For 1 second, she thought he would argue. Then he tucked it inside the coat and turned, and at the door he stopped, not looking back. Terminal 7, he said. She went still. You keep circling it, he said. I hear you on the phone through the wall. Terminal 7. He put his hand on the frame. That mezzanine has one card that overrides the housekeeping lockout. Only officers carry it. I carry one. A breath. So does he. Then he was gone, and he had said more with 2 words at a door than he had said with an island. Simone sat down. She wrote officer override card on the menu, under the times, and drew a line connecting them. Evelyn called at 7:40. Cart badge, Evelyn said. Housekeeping unit HK11. Roster says HK11 clocked out at 9 p.m., and the cart was parked in the basement bay. There's a camera on the bay. And? The cart never moved. It's on the basement floor all night. Sitting there. I'm looking at it. Simone's pulse ticked up, so the badge was on the executive floor at 12:41, while the cart it belongs to was asleep in the basement. Somebody cloned it. Or pulled it. Either way, the badge walked upstairs without its cart. Evelyn's voice dropped. A cleaning badge doesn't override an officer lockout, Simone. I checked. It gets you in the corridor. It does not open the terminal room. So there were 2 credentials, Simone said slowly. The cart badge to be invisible in the hall, and an officer override to open the room. That's 2 things one person had to hold at once. One of which is only carried by the family's senior men. Say it plain, Evelyn said. For the log I'm building, I need you to say what we're claiming. Simone looked at the sleeping baby, at the card that read Brooks Kang, her name first, and she said it plain. We're claiming someone with an officer's override let himself into Terminal 7, wearing a dead cart's badge so the hallway wouldn't know his face, and signed 3 contracts as me while my water was breaking. She breathed. Someone inside, both places, the server in Seoul and the terminal in Nevada, open in the same 90 minutes. That's not one man in one room. That's one man who had my fingerprint on a file and an officer's key in his glove. The word glove came out before she chose it. Evelyn heard it. Neither of them filled the silence with a name. I'll pull the override log, Evelyn said. Officer cards leave a trace even when the door log lies. Different system. Give me till noon. Yuna might get it faster. She runs the property side. Then use Yuna. I'll take the digital trail. She takes the paper. We cross them at the middle. Simone hung up and called Yuna, who answered on the first ring like someone who had not gone to bed. Terminal 7. Officer override, Simone said. I need every card that fired that override on the executive mezzanine that night. You have the property system. I can get the override ledger, Yuna said. It's kept separate from security, which is exactly why nobody thinks to scrub it. A pause. Simone, if I pull that, my name is on the pull. If it's who we both think it is, he'll know I looked. Then look fast and tell me before he does. There's something else. Yuna's voice changed, got careful. I was going through the old corporate binders last night. Succession documents, looking for the motion they're filing on Hana. A rustle of pages. I found a contract, 14 years old, from when my father brought Daesung in as second. Simone's hand stopped over the menu. What kind of contract? A continuity clause. It was meant to keep the casinos running if the boss ever went to prison or died. Standard, back then. Yuna swallowed. It names an interim controller. If the sitting boss is removed, indicted, incapacitated, killed, and the designated heir's guardian is also legally compromised, control of all Nevada gaming assets passes to the second-in-command, fully, until the family reconvenes. The room went very quiet. Even the monitors seemed to wait. Say that again, Simone said, slowly. If Min-jae falls, Yuna said, and the person standing between Daesung and the baby is legally destroyed, disbarred, indicted, disgraced, then the casinos go to the second-in-command, to him, not to the elders, to one man. Simone stood without deciding to. She walked to the window and back. The pieces she had been holding as separate, the frozen transfer, the party video, the 3 impossible contracts, the motion to register Hana, the offer to ship her offshore, turned, all at once, and clicked into a single shape, and the shape had a purpose. It's not a fraud, she said. I keep calling it a fraud. It's not. What is it? It's a key. She pressed her palm to the cold glass. Every piece does one job. Freeze me out of trust, the video. Break my license, the 3 contracts. Register the baby as heir, so there's an asset to control. And me between them, the guardian. She turned around. He didn't steal $9 million, Yuna. $9 million is bait. He used the theft to make me the compromised guardian. That's the clause. That's what the clause needs. It needs Min-jae down and me disgraced in the same breath, and then he inherits an empire without firing a shot. Silence on the line. Then Yuna, low, and the motion tonight to register Hana as heir creates the heir the clause requires. It's the last screw. Simone's mouth was dry. He's not trying to take Hana from me. He's trying to make her the thing he inherits. Simone? He needs 3 things to line up in one night. Min-jae removed by the vote. Me indicted by the commission. Hana registered as heir. All 3. Tonight and tomorrow. And he's spent months arranging every one. She sat down hard, because her legs had decided the matter for her. The dead vendor in Seoul. The 9 days. The template of my fingerprint. He's been building this since before I was even showing. That's not a man who lost his temper at a meeting, Yuna said slowly. That's a man who planned a coup and disguised it as a scandal. Worse, he disguised it as my scandal. The one thing nobody in your family will defend is the outsider who moved their money on the night she gave birth. He didn't just pick a crime, he picked the crime they'd all want to be true. Simone pressed her thumb hard against the edge of the table. That's the part I keep coming back to. He knew exactly which lie the elders were already half ready to believe. He didn't have to convince them of anything. He only had to hand them permission. Then we have the clause, Yuna said. The clause is the motive, that's huge. The clause is a motive without a hand on it. Simone made herself slow down, lawyer again, the cold coming back like a tide she could stand in. A clause proves he benefits. It doesn't prove he did it. Any prosecutor will say benefiting isn't doing. We need his card in that override log. We need his hand on Terminal 7. We need to put the man in the room. And if the log's been scrubbed, then we find where the copy of my fingerprint came from, because a template doesn't make itself. She looked at the menu, at officer override card connected by a line to the Times. 2 threads. The override log, that's you. The stolen fingerprint template, that's Evelyn. If either one lands on him, the clause stops being a motive and becomes a plan. I'll have the override ledger by 10, Yuna said. But Simone, the moment I pull it, we're in a race. He filed the motion. He set the vote. He has the machine. We have a hospital room and a baby monitor. We have the truth in 36 hours, Simone said. He has a lie and a deadline. Truth doesn't need the machine. It just needs to arrive before the vote closes. She hung up. She looked at Hana. She wrote, under everything else, on the last white space of the menu, 3 words she had not let herself write before, and this time, she let herself. Prove the room. Marjorie came in at 9 with fresh coffee and a sandwich Simone did not want and ate anyway, because Marjorie stood over her until she did. Evelyn's window stayed open on the laptop, a progress bar crawling. Yuna went dark, which meant she was inside a system she wasn't supposed to be inside. At 10:20, the door opened without a knock. Not Min-jae, a young man in a charcoal suit, junior, holding an envelope with 2 hands like it might bite. Ms. Brooks, he said, in careful English. From the office of Mr. Park, he asked that you receive this directly. Simone did not stand. Leave it on the tray. He hesitated. He asked me to place it in your hand. Then he asked you to fail. She kept her voice level, the way she kept it in every hostel room she had worked. Nothing from that office goes in my hand. Tray or door? Choose. He glanced at the steel tray by the sink, where the oval ring still sat, and something crossed his face. He had not expected to see it there. Discarded, catching the light. He set the envelope beside it and left too quickly. Marjorie moved to pick it up. Simone stopped her with a hand. Gloves, Simone said. If we open it on camera and we don't touch the inside. Anything from that man is either a threat or a trap, and I want it to be evidence either way. Marjorie found the exam gloves in the wall dispenser. Simone propped her phone against the water jug, hit record, stated the date and time out loud. August 17th, 10:26, hospital, in the presence of Marjorie Bennett, and only then slid a finger under the flap. 1 page. Heavy stock. 3 lines. Printed. No signature. She read them twice, the way she read everything that mattered. A keepsake for the child's file. Her father signed many things the night she was born. S.O., it seems, did her mother. The family remembers both. Below the words, a small printed image. A thumbnail. A fingerprint rolled and inked the old way, reproduced in gray. Her fingerprint. The right index. The one the biometric pad wanted 3 times. Marjorie leaned in and went still. Is that? He's showing me he has it. Simone's hand was steady, which surprised her, because the rest of her had gone cold to the wrists. He's telling me he holds the template. He thinks it frightens me. It would frighten anybody. It's a mistake. Simone did not look up from the page. Marjorie. He just put in writing, on paper, delivered by a witness, with my camera running, that he possesses a copy of my fingerprint, a copy he has no lawful reason to hold. He thinks he's threatening me. Now she looked up, and something in her face had changed, had gone from cornered to hunting. He just handed me the theft of the template. He's so sure I'll break that he's bragging about the murder weapon. She hit stop on the recording. She did not lower the phone. Call it what it is, Marjorie said quietly. You've been circling his name all night. Everybody has. Nobody says it. Simone looked at the image of her own fingerprint, gray on white, sitting on a hospital tray beside the ring she had taken off her own swollen hand. Park Dae-sung, she said, out loud. First time. It did not shake the room. It steadied it. He froze me out of the family with the video. He broke my license with the contracts. He wants to register my daughter as the asset, and when I'm disbarred and Min-jae's voted down, a 14-year-old clause hands him every casino on the Nevada Strip. She set the phone down. And he just mailed me a receipt. The laptop chimed. Evelyn, back, breathless. The template, Evelyn said. I found where it was copied from. Your firm ran a background biometric enrollment 2 years ago. Standard compliance, every attorney with gaming floor access gets printed. Those files live on a secured server. Someone exported yours, 4 months ago, same week as Yuna's routing memo. Can you tell who exported it? Not yet. The export used a service account, but service accounts are provisioned by someone, and provisioning leaves. A name. A name, Evelyn said. Give me the afternoon. Simone looked at the envelope, at the gray thumbnail, at the recording saved on her phone. I have more than the afternoon now, she said. I have him bragging. Evelyn, the export and the override log. If those 2 land on the same man, we don't have a fraud, and we don't have a clause. We have a case. And the vote's still tonight. Then the case has to be built by tonight. 2 threads and a receipt, all on one man, before the elders raise their cups. She looked at the crawling progress bar, at the letter, at the ring. He gave himself 36 hours of margin. He never counted on me spending every one of them awake. You should sleep an hour. I'll sleep when he's in a room with a lock on the outside. Simone stood, and this time her legs held. She walked to the incubator and put 2 fingers lightly on the plastic, near the small, warm shape of her daughter, and she did the thing she had been refusing to do since 6:04 the morning before. She let herself feel exactly how afraid she was, all of it, for 3 full seconds, and then she folded it up and put it in the pocket with the zipper, the one that stays closed. Marjorie, she said, without turning, bag the envelope. Don't fold it. Yuna's bringing the override ledger by noon, and Evelyn's tracing the export. When both come in, I want them on the same table as this letter, and I want a witness for every page. She looked at the fingerprint one last time. He built a machine to erase me. He forgot the machine has his hand in it. Her phone buzzed. Yuna. 2 words, and Simone read them standing at the incubator with her daughter's breath fogging the plastic under her fingers. Got the ledger. Simone closed her eyes. Somewhere 2 floors and an ocean and 36 hours away, a man in leather gloves was counting on a vote and a clause and a broken woman. He had built it clean. He had built it patient. He had built it to hold. He had built it, she thought, without once imagining that the woman he'd chosen to destroy would still be standing at dawn with a camera in her hand and her daughter's name spelled first on the card. She opened her eyes and picked up the phone. Bring it to me, she said. Bring it all to me. We're not running anywhere. She looked at the ring on the tray and did not pick it up. We're going to the vote. The first call came at 11:40, and Simone knew from the way Evelyn said her name that it was starting. They pulled the retainer, Evelyn said. Halverson Group, 2 minutes ago. Email, not a phone call. Simone set the laptop on the tray table beside the incubator. Halverson had been her third client, the one that made the firm real, the one whose logo sat at the top of her letterhead. 4 years. Reason? Reputational exposure pending regulatory review. Evelyn read it flat. It's boilerplate. Somebody wrote it for them. Somebody wrote it 2 hours ago, Simone said. She opened a browser. She already knew what she'd find, and she found it. A financial trade site, mid-tier, the kind that ran on leaks. The headline used her name. It used the word forgery. With a question mark, which was the trick. A question mark is not a claim, and a question mark is not actionable, and a question mark does everything a claim does anyway. The photo under the headline was her. The old firm photo. Royal blue suit, gold at the wrist. Beside it, small, the burned timestamp from the party video, her face and his glass, side by side, and the caption doing the arithmetic for the reader. Take it down from your screen, Evelyn said. Don't read the comments. I'm not reading the comments. Simone was reading the byline. No name, a desk credit. She screenshotted it anyway, dated it, dropped it in the folder with the rest. Everything went in the folder now. That was the only rule she had left. Marjorie came back with juice she hadn't asked for and put it in her hand. Simone drank it because refusing took energy she wanted to spend elsewhere. By noon, there were 4 more. The pieces came out spaced, 20 minutes apart, from 4 outlets that did not usually agree on the weather. That spacing was the tell. No newsroom moves like that. A hand moves like that. Someone had loaded them the night before and was releasing them on a clock, the same way he had released the party video on a clock. The same craft, the 9-day craft, the man who built things to go off at the hour they'd hurt most. Her phone buzzed against the tray. Not Evelyn, 2 more clients, then a 4th. The messages were courteous and identical, and courtesy arriving in identical words is not courtesy, it is a memo passed down a line. How many left? Marjorie asked. Simone counted. She had 11 clients yesterday morning. 3. 3's not 0. 3 is a firm you close in a month. Simone said it without heat. Heat was expensive. He's not trying to sue me. He's trying to make me weightless. A lawyer nobody hires can't hurt anybody at a hearing. Daniel Cho called at 12:05, and his voice had lost the family lawyer calm he'd carried through 2 days of drafts. They pulled the acknowledgement out of our agreement, he said. I need you to understand what that means, because it's clever and it's ugly. The paternity clause you insisted on, the one that made him sign in front of a neutral, they photographed the signature page and attached it to a registry petition. The document you built to keep his family at arm's length is now the document letting them in. I know. Yuna's about to tell me the same thing. Then hear the part she can't, Cho breathed. As drafted, the acknowledgement is airtight. It does exactly what you wanted. That's the problem. It's so clean that when they lifted the signature, there's no defect to challenge. You made it too good. He counted on you making it too good. Simone pressed 2 fingers to her eyes. You're telling me my own competence is the leak. I'm telling you the man on the other side of this reads the way you draft. He built the trap out of your best work. A pause. I'll fight the attachment. It'll take weeks. You don't have weeks. You have hours. I know exactly how many hours I have, Daniel. She said it gently, because he had stayed up 2 nights for a client whose firm was dissolving under him, and that deserved gentleness. Keep the paper clean anyway. When this ends, I want the record to show one document nobody could break. She hung up before he could tell her the record might be all she had left. Yuna's name came up on the screen at 12:15, and Simone answered on the first ring. They filed it, Yuna said, no greeting. The petition, family registry, family court annex, filed under the elder's seal an hour ago. Recognition of Hannah Brooks Kang as acknowledged issue of the Kang line. Simone's hand went flat on the plastic wall of the incubator. Inside, Hannah slept, one fist near her cheek, the tube taped soft along the jaw. A day and a half old. They can't do that without the father petitioning. He didn't petition. Yuna's voice was careful. They attached the paternity acknowledgement, the one Min Jae signed with Cho. They lifted the acknowledgement out of your custody agreement and stapled it to their registry filing. Same signature, different purpose. The juice turned to nothing in Simone's mouth. She saw it whole in one motion, the way you see a chessboard go from a position to a mate. Min-jae had signed a paper to give Hana his name and his protection. Dae-sung had taken that exact paper and used it to give Hana to the family, the same ink, the father's love, rerouted into an inventory. That's the point of the whole thing, she said, mostly to herself. Every good thing he does, they turn it into a handle. Simone. Yuna waited until she was sure of the words. There's more, and it's worse. Take a breath before I say it. Say it? There's a file circulating inside the family channel. Not public. Just to the officers, just to the elders. It's a memo, on your firm's letterhead, dated 3 weeks ago. It's a draft cooperation agreement between you and the Nevada Gaming Control Board. It offers Kang's clandestine ledgers in exchange for immunity for you and safe relocation for Hana. A pause. It names Min-jae as the subject you'd testify against. Simone closed her eyes. Opened them. I never wrote that. I know you didn't. It's the same forgery, the same signature file, the same hand that signed the contracts, signed the memo. I know that too, but Simone, the officers don't know that. They got it 40 minutes ago. They think you spent his wedding night deciding to sell him. The room was very quiet. The monitor over the incubator ticked its soft green tick. Somewhere down the hall, a cart rolled and a door sighed. Where is he? Simone said. He's reading it right now. He walked into the officer's room 10 minutes ago, and Ho-jin handed it to him in front of everyone. I couldn't get to him first. Yuna's breath caught. Simone, I have to go. They're calling the pre-session. The line went dead. Simone put the phone down with both hands, gently, the way you set down something you might otherwise throw. Marjorie had heard enough of it through the tinny speaker to understand. She didn't ask. She moved the tray table back so it wasn't between Simone and the door, which was a nurse's instinct, 30 years of it. Clear the path before the storm. He'll believe it or he won't, Marjorie said. Nothing you do in this room changes which. He'll believe it. Simone stood. The floor tilted once and settled. 11 minutes of sleep in 2 days does that. He spent 3 years believing the version of me that keeps him comfortable. This one lets him off the hook for the party. If I planned to betray him, then leaving me on that call wasn't the sin. It was self-defense. You don't know he'll... I know how the story wants to end for him. She braced a hand on the incubator and did not look away from her daughter. I know how much easier I'd be to lose if I was the traitor instead of the woman he left on a table. He came at 1:05. She heard him before the door, the security detail's low word, the pause while they checked with the desk, the click of the badge, then the door, and Min-jae in it, still in the black overcoat from a day and a night of travel, and the thing on his face she had never seen there before. Not anger. Anger she could have used. This was something with the bottom fallen out of it. He had the memo in his hand, a single folded page, gone soft at the crease from being gripped. Not here, Simone said. Hana was 6 feet away. Family room. Now. He turned without a word, and she followed him down the hall, and the walk was the longest 30 seconds of the day, his back ahead of her, the coat swinging, the dragon at his collar showing above the wool where the fabric pulled. The family room had a couch nobody had ever relaxed on, and a window with the blind half down. He shut the door. He held the page up between them like evidence at an arraignment, and his hand was not steady. Tell me you didn't write this. I didn't write it. Then tell me what it is. His voice cracked in the middle of the sentence, and he hated it. She could see him hate it. Because it's on your paper. It's your signature. It's dated 3 weeks ago, when you were in that apartment with your feet swollen, telling me you were tired. And it says you were going to hand me to a regulator and take my daughter to an island. My daughter, the island. They offered you. He laughed, one broken syllable. You made me sound like I stole your idea. Min-jae. Was it real? He stepped in. Any of it. 3 years. Was the whole thing you building a case? Did you marry me for standing in a room so you could stand in a different room someday and testify about what you saw? There it was. The thing worse than the party. At the party he had chosen a glass over her call. That was a man being weak. This was a man deciding she had never been real. Deciding, in the space of 40 minutes, on the strength of a page a killer had printed for him, that every soft thing between them had been reconnaissance. The party had cost her a marriage. This was reaching back and unmaking the years behind the marriage too. She felt it land. She let it land. She had learned, in a hospital, that you cannot fight a thing you refuse to feel. Look at the date, she said. I looked at the... Look at it again. She took one step, and pointed, and made him look. 3 weeks ago, you know where I was 3 weeks ago, because you were there. My last checkup. Dr. Yoon's office, the 4 o'clock, and after it, we sat in the car in the garage, and you couldn't get the seat to recline, and you said if the baby came in the car, you'd deliver her yourself. Her voice held. That's the day this memo says I was drafting a deal to destroy you. That was a good day, Min Jae. That was one of the last good days, and he took it and printed a lie on top of it. His jaw worked. The page came down an inch. He does this, she said. Quiet now. Every word set down like stones across a river. He takes the true thing and prints the lie over it, so you can't tell them apart. The video was true. You were at the table. You did raise the glass. And on top of it, he printed. Who minds the house? The contracts have my real signature. A real signature he stole. And on top of the true signature, he printed a theft. This memo is my real letterhead. And on top of it, he printed a traitor. She stopped. You are standing here doing his last step for him. He forged the page. You're the one deciding to believe it. He needs you to. He needs you to look at me and see the enemy so you won't look at him. Then who? Min Jae's mouth closed on the name. Again. He couldn't say it. Even now, holding a forgery designed to gut him, he could not put the sound of it in the air. And that, more than anything, was the thing that broke her. You can't say his name, she said. You have never once been able to say it. I have named him in this hospital. Yuna has named him. Evelyn traced his craft across 2 continents, and she'll name him. And you, the one man he can't move without, you stand there with the proof of what he does to you in your fist, and you'd rather believe I spent my pregnancy planning your funeral than say 4 syllables out loud. He looked at the page. He looked at her. I want it to be him, he said, and it came out of him like something pulled. God help me. I want it to be him instead of you, because if it's you, I lost 3 years, and if it's him, I lost. He stopped. You lost him first, she said. You just haven't buried it yet. He sat down on the couch, nobody relaxed on. It was the first time she had seen him fold, and it frightened her more than the coat and the shaking hand had, because a man who folds has run out of the thing that held him up. He held me at my father's funeral, Min Jae said. He was looking at the floor. I was 19. Everyone in that room wanted the seat, and he stood behind me with a hand on my shoulder so they'd see whose it was. He taught me to read a ledger. He taught me which capos smiled when they lied. His hands hung between his knees. You're asking me to believe the hand on my shoulder was measuring me for the box the whole time. I'm not asking you to believe anything about him. Simone stayed by the door. I'm asking you to stop believing the lie about me. Those are 2 different rivers. You can stand on this bank a while longer if you have to, but get off mine. And if I can't cross? Then you watch from where you are. She meant it to be cold, and it came out only tired. I stopped needing you to save me somewhere over the Pacific, Min Jae. I need one thing from you now, and it isn't rescue. It's that you stop handing him the knife, the phone, the toast, the ring by a stranger, the island. Every time you reach for me, you hand him the exact thing he needs. So if you can't cross the river, at least keep your hands where I can see them. He looked up at that. Something moved behind his eyes. Not agreement, not yet, but the first crack in a wall he'd built at 19 with a dead father's hand on his shoulder. The silence after that had weight. He put the page in his coat pocket. No apology came, and she was glad of it. An apology was a thing you accepted, and accepting cost energy, and she was almost out. The vote's in 6 hours, he said finally. The petition on Hana goes first. Then the officers see this memo, and they'll want you gone before the licensing question ever reaches the floor. He said it so all 3 fall in one night. I know what he's said. If you walk into that room, they'll eat you. I'm not walking into that room to be eaten. She moved past him to the door and put her hand on it. I'm not walking into it at all. Not with you. He turned. What does that mean? It means we're done running the audit together. She said it and felt the cut of it in her own chest, because Una and Evelyn were the only two people on earth who'd stood between her and the dark for 2 days, and she was about to cut the rope. Every hour we spend building the perfect case. He files another paper. He's faster than the truth. He's always been faster than the truth, because the truth has to be careful, and he doesn't. So I stopped trying to win the room. Simone, without the officer's room there's no... I take it to the board. She opened the door. The hall light was flat and white. All of it. The contracts, the badge logs, the terminal, the export, the letter with my own fingerprint printed on it. Not to your family, not to your elders. To Nevada, the one authority he can't file a memo inside of. I hand the whole thing to the regulator that's already coming for my license, and I let them take him apart with subpoena power I don't have. That torches everything. He was very still. The family, the empire, me. You hand it to Nevada and there's no version where I keep the seat. I know. You'd do that? I would do that at 9 o'clock tonight, she said. If by 9 o'clock the only two people who believe me are a nurse and a woman on a laptop in a different time zone. If I'm alone anyway, I'd rather be alone in front of a regulator than alone in front of your elders. She held the door. So here's the last thing I'll say to you, as the man I married instead of the boss of that family. Get out of my way, or stand in it. But decide it yourself. Don't let him decide it for you, the way you let him decide everything else. She left him there. She walked back to the neonatal ward and she was steady until the door of Hannah's room closed behind her, and then she put her back against the wall beside the incubator and slid down it until she was sitting on the floor, and she stayed there. Marjorie left her where she was and sat down on the floor next to her, all 58 years and full weight of her, knees cracking, and put a hand between Simone's shoulder blades. There it is, Marjorie said. Let it come up. It's been trying for 2 days. It came up, not loud. Simone had never in her life cried loud. It came up in her shoulders, in a shaking that had no sound to it, her fist pressed against her mouth, her eyes open the whole time on the small taped shape of her daughter breathing on her own 6 feet away. She cried the way people cry when they've been strong so long the body forgets any other language. I did everything right, she said into her fist. Every step. I flagged the transfer. I named the shells. I built the chain. I named him out loud when nobody else would. Her breath tore. And he's still going to win the room tonight. He took my clients. He took my name in the papers. He filed my baby into his family like she's furniture. And he made the one man who's supposed to love me look at me like I'm the knife. I know, baby. I have the proof, Marjorie. She turned her face, wet, furious, wrecked. I have it. I have his fingerprint theft in a bag. And it doesn't matter, because he's faster than proof, and the vote is tonight, and proof needs a courtroom, and he needs 6 hours. You listen to me. Marjorie took her chin, the way you'd take a child's, and turned it. You are sitting on a hospital floor and you have not slept, and you buried your wedding 2 days ago and had a baby by yourself, and you are still, right now, snot and all, you are still making a decision. You just made one. You said you'd take it to Nevada. That's not a woman at the bottom. That's a woman who found the floor and is standing on it. It doesn't feel like standing. The floor never does. That's how you know it's the floor and not the fall. Simone wiped her face with the heel of her hand. Her phone buzzed once more against the tray. She almost let it go. Then she reached up and turned it over. The last of the 3 remaining clients. A single line, no signature block, from a man who had shaken her hand at his daughter's wedding 2 years ago and called her the sharpest lawyer in Seoul. I'm sorry, my board voted this morning, nothing personal. She read it and set the phone face down on the floor beside her thigh. Nothing personal, she repeated. A sound came out of her that was almost a laugh and almost the other thing. He filed my daughter into a crime family this morning. There is nothing left in my life that isn't personal. So use it. Marjorie's hand was still flat and warm between her shoulders. You've been fighting this like a case. Files and chains and read-only logs. That's the lawyer. But the woman on this floor, the one they filed her baby away from, she's the one who's going to walk into a room full of men who wrote her off and make them sorry they underestimated a mother. Don't leave her in the hallway, Simone. Take her with you. Simone let her head go back against the wall. Above her the monitor ticked. Hannah's fist opened and closed in her sleep. The reflex of it, the small, furious grip on nothing. Her phone lit on the tray above her head. She reached up without getting off the floor and pulled it down. Evelyn. A message, then a second one right behind it. Don't send anything to Nevada yet. Give me the night. Then, I found something in the override log. It's not clean. I need 6 more hours to be sure. But Simone, the officer card that opened Terminal 7, didn't just open it. It authenticated at the door. Someone badged in as themselves before they signed as you. There's a name on the door swipe. Simone stared at it. A third message came. Don't take it to the board tonight. If I'm right, you don't need Nevada. You need the room he built. Because the proof isn't out there. It's in the party. It's on the family's own cameras. She read it twice, then a fourth time. The floor under her had not moved, and yet everything on it had rearranged. She typed with a thumb that shook and then steadied. A name. Whose name? The dots pulsed, stopped, pulsed. Down the hall, past the family room where a man in a travel-creased coat still stood with a forgery in his pocket and a name he could not yet say in his mouth, the elevator chimed for the pre-session, and somewhere over an ocean, a woman in gold-rimmed glasses bent closer to 2 encrypted laptops, and the answer to the only question left sat 1 message away, blinking, not yet sent. Simone did not stand up. She held the phone with both hands and she waited, on the floor, at the bottom, watching the dots. The dots stopped. Then 1 word came through, and Simone read it sitting on the floor with her back against the wall. Park. She read it a second time. Not because she doubted it, because she had waited 3 days for a name she already knew, and seeing it in plain letters did something her own certainty had not. Her hand steadied. The tremor that had lived in her fingers went quiet. Marjorie watched her from the floor beside the incubator. Well, it's him, on the door swipe, his own card. You knew that. I knew it. Now the machine knows it. She pushed herself up the wall, 1 vertebra at a time, until she was standing. Her knees held. Knowing and proving are 2 different animals. One keeps you up at night. The other takes a man's empire off him in a room full of witnesses. The phone buzzed again. Evelyn, 3 lines fast. Door swipe reads DAE Sung, Park, his officer card, 12:39 Pacific, 2 minutes before the housekeeping badge opens the corridor. He badged himself in first, then used the dead cart's badge to make the hallway look empty. His card at the door, your finger on the pad, both true at the same time. Simone typed with 1 thumb. The party cameras. You said the proof was in the party, not the swipe logs. That's the thing. Give me 20 minutes. I'm pulling the family's own stream, the one they leaked you from. Simone set the phone face up on the tray table, next to the steel dish where the oval ring still sat. She had not touched it in 2 days. She looked at it now for a full breath, then looked away. Una arrived at 1:52 without knocking, laptop under 1 arm, coat still on. The pre-session started an hour ago. They pulled the vote forward to 3. Of course they did. Hojin's telling the officers the cooperation memo is real. Half the room believes it, the other half doesn't want to be the one who defended the traitor's wife if it turns out true. Una set the laptop on the bed. Min Jae's in the room. He hasn't said a word, just sitting there with the folder in front of him, closed. Simone absorbed that. The folder held the paternity acknowledgement, the thing that had become the crack in her own house. Closed meant he had not decided. Evelyn's pulling the party stream. The real footage, not the leaked cut. Una went still. 4 camera feeds in the executive mezzanine that night. Security keeps them 90 days. If they haven't been scrubbed, then he's on one of them. He's careful. He got greedy, Simone said. He sent me a letter with my own fingerprint on it. Careful men don't brag. The phone lit. A video file, then Evelyn's voice. Tight. I'm sending it. Feed 3. Camera above the mezzanine bar. Watch the man at the far terminal. Watch his right hand. Simone turned the laptop so Marjorie and Una could see. She pressed play. The footage was color, time-stamped, silent. The party lived in the background of it. Capitans laughing, glasses moving. A captain in the center of the frame she recognized as Min Jae with his glass raised. The exact frozen image the whole family had watched on 100,000 phones. But Evelyn had not pointed her at the center. She had pointed her at the edge. At the far right of the frame, past the crowd, a corridor door. A man in a charcoal suit stepped through it. He wore gloves. He took the right glove off at the threshold, folded it into his pocket, and pressed his bare hand to a wall panel. The door to the terminal room opened. Before he went in, he lifted his right hand to the light, turning something on his finger. A ring, black, a crest. "Freeze it," Una whispered. Simone froze it. The man's face was three-quarter to the camera. 52 years old, gray at the temples, combed straight back. Park Dae-sung, wearing a signet ring that was not his. "That's the Kang crest ring," Una said, her voice thin. "Min-jae wears it. Every day since our father died." Simone's throat tightened. "He was wearing it this morning. He never takes it off." She looked at the black ring on the wrong hand. "There are two." "There aren't two. It was cast once. For the head of the family. There is one ring." They looked at each other, and the same cold understanding moved between them. "He didn't steal it off Min-jae's hand," Simone said slowly. "Min-jae had his on all night, in front of 200 people. So he had a copy made." Yuna's hand went to her mouth. "He had the family crest copied. You don't understand what that is. That's not fraud. In our house, it's the one thing you cannot forgive. You can steal money. You cannot forge the crest." She stopped. "That's why the proof is here. Not in the money, in the ring." "Evelyn," Simone said, "watch what he does after the door opens." "The pad doesn't read rings. It reads fingerprints," Evelyn's voice came back. "I've got the next 90 seconds. The footage rolled again. Park entered the terminal room. Camera 4, a second angle, picked him up inside, a legacy machine, a biometric pad glowing. He set a phone on the table. He pressed his own bare thumb to the pad once, and a red light held. Then he tapped the phone and pressed his thumb a second time. The pad turned green. "He loaded your template onto a spoof surface," Evelyn said. "First press, his real print, rejected. Second press, your print played back off the phone through a conductive film. The pad can't tell the difference between a live finger and a good enough copy. That's the export I traced. 2 years old, from your compliance enrollment, pulled 4 months ago. He's holding your finger in his hand on that video. Literally." Simone watched Park Dae-sung sit at the terminal and sign 3 contracts under her name, and she did not feel the thing she had expected. She had expected rage. What she felt was quiet, the kind that comes after a long noise stops. "He filmed himself doing it," she said. "The family films everything at those parties, a loyalty thing. Everyone on record, everyone accounted for. He never thought anyone would pull feed 3 and 4. He thought he'd won the room before anyone could." Simone straightened. "Send me all 4 feeds, full length, timestamps burned in. The door swipe log, the template export trail with the service account name, the override ledger, every piece stamped, hashed, time-locked so no one can say we cut it." She looked at Una. "And I want it in front of the elders, not the board, the elders, in their own room." Una blinked. "You said Park owns that room." "Park owns that room when the only story in it is his." Simone picked up the steel tray, and this time she did not look away from the ring in it. "I'm walking in with the one thing he can't forge. Him, doing it, in his own crest, on his own cameras." She set the tray down. "Marjorie, I need clothes that aren't a gown, and someone with Hana." Marjorie was already standing. "The nurse and I have got her. You are not carrying that baby into a room full of those men. She stays here. She never goes near it." Simone looked at the incubator, at the small fist opening and closing under the wires. "That's the whole point. That's what all of this was to keep from happening." At 2:20 in the morning, the phone rang, and it was not Evelyn or Una. It was Min-jae. Simone looked at the screen. She let it ring twice. Then she answered, and she did not speak first. His voice came through low. "The vote is in 40 minutes. They're going to move Hana's registration first, then the memo, then your license." A pause. "I'm holding the folder. I haven't opened it. I keep thinking if I don't open it in this room, it isn't real yet." "It's real," Simone said. "Open it or don't. It's paper." "Simone, I have him." She said it flat. "On camera. In your ring." Silence on the line. A long one. When he spoke again, his voice had changed. Say that again. He had the crest copied. He's on the party feed, taking off his glove and putting on a black signet ring that isn't his, and walking into Terminal 7 and signing my name with my stolen fingerprint played off a phone. 4 camera angles. His own family's cameras. I have all of it. She let it land. You've spent 3 days unable to say his name. I don't need you to say it anymore. He said it himself. He put his own hand in the frame. She heard him breathe. She heard, in the background, the low murmur of a room full of men who thought the night was already decided. Min-jae, I'm coming to that room. I'm walking in without the ring on my finger, and I'm putting his ring in the record. When I do, they're going to look at you, and you're going to have exactly 1 chance to stop handing him the knife. Her voice did not rise. You saw my calls that night, both of them. You chose to stay in the room. I'm not asking you to pretend you didn't. I'm asking you to stand up in front of them and say it out loud before he uses it against me one more time. The truth, told by you, isn't a weapon anymore. The truth you hide is the only thing he has left. The line held. Then, where do you want me? On your feet, when I walk in. And open that folder. Read them what it actually says. That she's my daughter first. That you signed it to protect her, not to trade her. Take his lie and read the real thing underneath it out loud. That's the only way you kill it. He was quiet a moment. You've spent 3 days keeping me out of every room. I kept you out because you kept walking in with his hand on your shoulder, Simone said. Walk in with your own 2 hands empty, and I'll have you in the room. That was always the deal. Standing, not walls. She ended the call before he could answer. She did not need the answer. She needed him to do it. The elders held their sessions in a private hall on the 34th floor of the Kang Tower, and Simone had never been in it. Women did not sit in that room. She walked in at 3 minutes to 3, in an ivory suit Marjorie had brought from the apartment, no ring on her left hand, a folder in her right, and Yuna half a step behind with 2 laptops, and Evelyn live on a screen from Nevada. The room went quiet the way it does when the wrong person opens a door. Chairman Owen sat at the head of the table, 12 elders down the sides, the captains along the wall, Ho Jin among them, and at the chairman's right hand, black gloves resting on the table in front of him, Park Dae-sung, who looked at Simone with the mild patience of a man watching a mistake walk in on its own legs. This session is closed, Park said. He did not raise his voice. He never did. The mother of the child has no standing here. Someone will escort. I have standing, Simone said, because you gave it to me. She did not look for Min-jae. She could feel where he was. Halfway down the left side, the folder in front of him, not yet standing. She kept her eyes on the head of the table. Chairman Owen, you're about to vote on 3 things. You'll register a 1-day-old child as recognized issue of this line. You'll accept a memo that says I plan to trade this family to a regulator, and you'll let a foreign board strip my license over 3 contracts I never signed. She set the folder on the table. Every one of those 3 things was built by the same hand. I can show you the hand. Baseless, Park said. The woman is under investigation for forgery. She has motive to invent. Yuna, Simone said it without turning. Yuna opened the first laptop and turned it to face the table, and Evelyn's voice came into the room from the speaker, steady and clinical, a forensic specialist reading a chain of custody. Nevada property, executive mezzanine, night of the 14th, feed 3, camera above the bar, timestamp burned, file hashed, watch the corridor door at the far right. The footage played on the screen at the head of the table. The party, the raised glass in the center that every man in the room had seen 100 times. And at the edge, the charcoal suit, the glove coming off, the bare hand on the panel. Stop it there, Park said, and for the first time in 3 days, there was something under the mildness. Party footage proves nothing. Officers walk that floor all night. Let it run, said Chairman Owen. It was the first thing he had said. The room heard it. It ran. The hand came up to the light. The black ring turned on the finger. The crest caught the camera for 1 full second before the door swallowed the man. Nobody in the room breathed. The Kang crest, Simone said into the silence. Cast once, worn by the head of this family. Now, only now, she turned and looked down the left side of the table. He's wearing it tonight. On his hand. Aren't you? Min Jae stood up. He held up his right hand, and the black signet ring sat on it where it had sat every day since he was 19 years old. I have never taken this off, Min Jae said. His voice carried without effort. Not once since my father died. 200 people saw it on my hand at that party all night. He looked at the screen, at the frozen frame of the other ring on the other hand. So that one is a copy. Someone in this family had the crest forged. The word forged moved through the room like a temperature change. Yuna had said it, and now Simone understood it. This was the thing money could not buy back. Captains who had shrugged at $9 million sat forward. Feed 4, Evelyn's voice said. Inside the terminal room. Same man, watch his thumb. The second angle. Park at the pad. The phone set down. The bare thumb pressed once, red. The phone tapped. The thumb pressed a second time, green. First press is his own print, rejected, Evelyn said. Second is a stored template, played back off that phone through a film. The template is Miss Brooks's, exported from her firm's compliance enrollment 4 months ago, through a service account provisioned, a pause, the click of a key, under the officer credential belonging to Park Dae-sung. I have the record. It has his name on it. Put it on the screen, said Chairman Own. Park Dae-sung set both gloved hands flat on the table. He did not stand. His face had not moved, but his knuckles pressed white against the leather, the same tell Simone had seen in Seoul 3 days ago. The hand pressed hard against the thigh when the lie went in. Chairman, Park said, quiet, reasonable, the voice of the man who had held this family's books for 14 years. You've known me since before this boy could read a ledger. I sat beside his father. I carried this house through 3 successions, and you'll take a woman's edited video and a forensic hired by her over my word. It isn't edited, Evelyn said. The hashes are published. Any technician in this building can verify them in 5 minutes. I'd welcome it. Simone opened her folder in front of the chairman. And this is the memo you were going to accept in an hour. My firm's letterhead, dated 3 weeks ago. It says I offered to hand this family's clandestine ledgers to the Nevada Board for Immunity and my daughter's relocation, naming Kang Min Jae as the target. She turned the page. That day, at 4 in the afternoon, I was at an obstetric checkup with Dr. Yoon, time-stamped in a hospital system nobody in this room controls. The memo puts me at a keyboard betraying the man I was, that same hour, carrying a child to term with. Real letterhead, false page. His whole craft is printing a lie on top of a truth. The party video, my signature, this memo. Every time the truth was real, every time the thing printed over it was his. She straightened. A continuity clause 14 years old hands this family's Nevada gaming control to the second in command if the boss falls and the heir's guardian is legally compromised. Remove Min Jae by vote. Indict me for forgery. Register Hana as recognized issue. 3 things in one night, and the clause makes him the man who holds it all. She looked at Park. You didn't want to take my daughter away from me. You wanted to turn her into the thing you keep. For the length of a breath, the room was completely still. Then Park Dae-sung spoke, and the reasonable voice was gone, and what came out was older and harder and, at last, true. His father promised me the house. The room turned to him. When Kang was dying, he told me the boy wasn't ready. Told me to hold it until he was. Then he died and left it to a 19-year-old who reads ledgers like poetry and lets his American lawyer freeze $11 million in front of 12 captains. Park's gloved hand made a small flat motion. I held this family together for 14 years while he played house. I built the Nevada license while he fell in love. I was owed the house. I was going to take what I was owed and keep the bloodline in a crib where it couldn't freeze another transfer. He looked at Simone, and for 1 second, there was something almost like respect in it, worse than the contempt. I did not account for her being faster than the story. No, Simone said, you didn't. Chairman Owen stood. He was an old man and he stood slowly, and every man in the room stood when he did, except Park Dae-sung, who remained seated with his gloved hands flat on the table. Park Dae-sung, the chairman said, you forged the crest. It was not a question, and Park did not answer it. Nothing else in this room matters beside that. Not the money, not the license, not the girl. You cast the crest of this family onto another hand. Owen's voice did not rise and did not need to. You are removed. From the second seat, from the books, from the name. The captains will hold you in this building. In the morning, you'll be handed to the Nevada authorities with every file this woman brought, and this family will not lift one finger to stop it. Two captains came off the wall. Ho-Jin was not one of them. He had stepped back until the wall held him up. Park rose on his own before they reached him, buttoned his jacket with two gloved fingers, and looked once around the room he had run from the second chair for 14 years. He looked at Simone. He'll disappoint you too, Park said. He was raised by me. He just stood up, Simone said. You're the only one still sitting. They took him out. The door closed with a sound too soft for what it ended. Chairman Owen turned to the table. The registration motion is withdrawn. The child is the mother's, under the mother's name, as her card already reads. The memo is struck and named a forgery in the record. And this family will send its own statement to the Nevada board that the 3 contracts were signed by Park Dae-sung under a stolen credential, with the footage attached. He looked at Simone a long moment. Your license is not ours to give back, but it will not be ours to take either. That's all I've ever wanted from any of you, Simone said, for the truth to be allowed in the room. Min-jae opened the folder and read the elders what the acknowledgement actually said, that Hannah Brooks Kang was Simone Brooks's daughter, that he was her father by fact and nothing more automatic, that everything else between them was to be documented by a neutral attorney and decided in the open. He read it flat to the end. Then he said the thing she had asked him to, without being pushed to it. The night she was born, my wife called me twice. I saw both calls. I chose to stay in that room one more hour because a man I trusted told me to let the chairman watch me enjoy myself. He looked for no sympathy and got none. He built everything else on top of that, but that part was mine. I did it, not him. Nobody spoke. Chairman Owen inclined his head half an inch, which from him was a great deal, and closed the session. The Nevada Gaming Control Board took 11 days to move. Evelyn flew the files in herself and walked 3 investigators through the hashes, the door swipes, the 4 feeds frame by frame. On the 12th day, the board issued its finding. The 3 contracts were fraudulent, executed by Park Dae-sung through a stolen biometric template and a copied officer credential. Simone Brooks was cleared of all involvement, and, in a line she read 4 times, the board named her firm to oversee the compliance transition of the Kang Nevada properties, on the grounds that she was the one who had caught it. The clients came back, not all of them, and not with apologies that meant much, but enough. Halverson Group sent a new retainer with a note that the board had reconsidered, and Simone filed the note in the same folder as the one where they'd fired her, because she liked keeping both true things in one place. Min-jae did the thing she had not asked him to. He handed the clandestine ledgers to the board himself, every book, and stepped down from command provisionally while the elders reconvened, and did not fight it. Yuna held the hotels steady through the transition. Ho-Jin lost the ports. Hana came home from the hospital at 3 weeks, small and furious, and breathing entirely on her own, in an ivory blanket, and the silver bracelet from Min-jae's mother, the one wrapped in black silk that had waited on the nursery shelf since before any of this, went around her wrist for 1 day, the first day, the way it had always been meant to, and then back into its silk to wait for her to grow into it. Months passed, the only way the story allowed them to, slowly and in order, and it was autumn when Min-jae asked to see Simone somewhere that wasn't a hospital or a family room or a courtroom, and she chose the ocean. He came to the beach without a folder for the first time in her memory of him. He wore no overcoat. He had the black signet ring on his hand, the real one, the only one, and he had something in his other hand, and it was not the oval ring. Simone stood with her bare feet in the cold sand and Hana on her hip in a soft pink knit, 1-year-old now and grabbing at the wind, and she watched him come, and she did not go to meet him halfway. She had learned the price of meeting men halfway. He stopped in front of her. He held out the thing in his hand. It was a document. It removes her from the succession, he said. All of it. The seat, the clause, the name in the family book that makes her anything anyone can inherit. She's your daughter. She's mine by fact. She is not the Kang Empire's anything. I had Cho draw it and I signed it, and the elders sealed it. It can't be undone by a vote. He set it in her free hand. I'm not giving you the ring back. You took it off for a reason, and the reason was real. I'm not going to pretend 3 days didn't happen by putting a ring over them. Simone looked at the document, then at him. Then what are you asking for? To court you again, Min-jae said. From the start. No walls, no island, no protection you didn't ask for. I stand where you can see me, and I earn it slow, the way I should have the first time. And if you never say yes again, then I raised a daughter with a woman I respect, and that's more than I deserve. He put his hands in his pockets. An ordinary man on a beach. That's the whole offer. I'm not hiding a second half this time. The wind came off the water. Hana grabbed a fistful of Simone's hair and laughed at it. And Simone unwound the small fingers one at a time, and she thought about a man who had spent 3 years offering her walls, and had finally, standing on cold sand with nothing in his hands, offered her the one thing she'd asked for on the very first night, in a car, standing. Not safety, standing. She folded the document once and put it in the inside pocket of her jacket, and then she reached out and took his hand. Not the hand with the ring, the empty one. She held it with her daughter on her hip and no ring on her own finger, and the whole long thing finally behind them, and she let the water come up over their feet and go back out, and neither of them said anything, because after everything that had been printed and forged and hidden and dragged into the light, there was nothing left that needed to be said out loud. She held his hand. That was the answer. She held it because it was hers to give, and for the first time in 3 years, she gave it to no one but herself first. If this story moved you, stop for a moment and reflect. Have you ever been blamed for a signature you never wrote, punished for a room you were never even in? When the people meant to protect you chose the party over your call for help, did you keep waiting by the phone, or did you finally take the ring off? And when the truth cleared your name, did you go back, or did you make them earn you all over again? Tell us your experiences and feelings in the comments. We read them all. And if you believe in stories about dignity, truth, and redemption, leave a like, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and click join to become a part of our community and help the channel.